Clouds are gathering over the streets of Korea and torrential rain begins. People are rushing about their business, everyone has their own worries. A mother and her son are walking down the street. The child is crying because his mother did not buy him a toy. But mom is unwavering. She already bought her son a robot a few days ago. But the boy asks to buy a new version of the robot. Suddenly his crying stops, and he notices an unusually handsome guy. All the people passing by admired the guy. Its beauty is able to calm a crying child. A full-length view that attracts the eyes even on a rainy day. The steps of busy passers-by and a man who will make any person stop. This guy's name is John Jae-un, and this man made even the girls who drove by car pay attention to themselves. These two girls did not notice how they were moving at high speed while the red light was on for cars. They were too fascinated by that man. Noticing this in time, one of them shouts to her sister that they are going to a red traffic light. They manage to slow down before they hit Jae-un. From fright, the guy dropped his white umbrella from his hands. The sisters run out of the car to apologize to the man. They ask Jae-un to leave his phone number to compensate for the damage. Jae-un tries to convince the girls that everything is fine, but they stand their ground. One of the sisters hands the man a business card on which the girl's name and her profession are written. Her name was Yoonju, she taught piano. The guy, picking up a business card and lifting his umbrella from the ground, notices the downed kitten. People who witnessed the accident are shocked. The buzz, conversations and condemnations begin. Jae-un interrupts the noise and checks the cat's pulse. Picking up the kitten in his arms, the guy decides to take responsibility for him. He puts the cat under his coat and rushes away so as not to continue further dialogue. The sisters shout after them about paying the hospital bill, but Jae-un no longer hears their words. Finally, having reached his apartment, the guy takes off his coat and goes into the living room. He puts the kitten on a soft pillow. Raising your hands up, blue lights light up on your fingertips. Jae-un brings his hands to the cat, and all the bloodstains disappear, and the coat becomes clean. The cat comes to her senses and now she doesn't look like she was a step away from death a few minutes ago. The guy exhales with relief. He is glad that the cat is alive. After reviving the cat, the guy decides to take a shower and feed the kitten. The young man puts cat food in a saucer and sits down on the sofa. His body shivers, and Jae-un comes to the realization that he can no longer hold on. If the guy had taken the cat to the hospital, he definitely would not have survived. Beads of sweat roll down his forehead, and a sign appears in front of the guy, which says whether the young man really wants to quit the game. And below is a confirmation button. Jae-un confirms the action, and a blue circle appears under his feet, and his body seems to be covered with interference. From a handsome guy, he turns into an ordinary short guy with glasses on his nose. The cat looks up and is shocked after what she saw. Jae-un asks the cat to let him talk about what happened. That day, as today, it was pouring rain. It was the graduation of a girls' school. 3 years later, the guy plucked up the courage and decided to tell his first love about his feelings. Since Hyuna lived in their villa, she will move out after graduation. The young man has never communicated with his first love. He had no other opportunity to confess his feelings, because she would leave. While Hyuna was taking a selfie with her friends, Jae-un enters the office and calls the girl by name. The young man does not have time to finish his speech, as an egg flies into his head and breaks with a crash. This is followed by a few more eggs and a carton of milk. The young man who was throwing food scratches the back of his head, and says that he was going to throw it at Hyun, but Jae-un appeared. The girl gets up from her chair and asks for forgiveness, because it happened because of her. Not paying attention to what just happened, Jae-un hands the bouquet to Hyun. The girl is genuinely surprised, but thanks the guy. Then she decides to ask why this bouquet is meant for her, because she has never seen Jae-un. The young man's eyes widen, and he remembers how throughout high school they walked together to the bus stop. Slightly stuttering, the young man pronounces his name and says that they live in the same villa with Hyuna. The girl's parents recognize the young man and are happy that they finally saw the son of the hostess. But Jae-un was always polite to his parents, too. Every day before school he greeted them. The students start laughing at the guy. They are amazed that, living nearby, no one was familiar with Jae-un. A humiliated young man walks in the rain and cries. He remembers his school life. Jae-un has always been like an empty place. He never had any friends. He dined away from other students. Physical education classes were more difficult for him. He could never stand up for anyone, just watch the bullies laugh at the students. When he reaches home, Jae-un informs him that he has returned. His mom goes out into the hallway and sees what kind of condition his son is in. The hair is covered in eggs and milk. The guy himself and his clothes are wet. Mom starts asking her son about what happened, because he left for the ceremony, but returned with a damaged uniform and now it can't be sold. Jaehyun becomes enraged after his mother's words. His voice breaks into a scream. He shouts that he barely managed to find this uniform. The young man wore it for 3 years. He also says that he just had fun with friends. Mom, in turn, calls her son irresponsible. He is too frivolous about his clothes, given their earnings. The young man begins to cry again. He runs off to his room and slams the door loudly. The woman takes a deep breath and exhales and, in an attempt to calm herself down, says to herself that all teenagers at this age are impulsive. While the young man is taking a shower, he realizes that his mother did not believe his words that they were playing with friends, so he came in this form. After getting out of the shower, Jaehyun goes to his room, wiping his hair with a towel at the same time. He lies down on the mattress and decides to watch the webtoons. After opening the apps for downloading apps, the young man notices a game called Symphony, Defender of the Ancient World. Since it was the last day of the beta test, Jaehyun decides to download the game. As soon as the game has finished loading, the young man eagerly opens the game and chooses the profession of a healer. The guy is amazed by the number of details for creating characters. He almost decided to choose a ready-made template, but since this is his first time, he still decides to create a character on his own. Jaehyun makes his character tall, also adds more muscles and abs. Having finished with the choice of eyes, hairstyle and body, the young man admires his creation. After creating a character, a sign appears that informs you that you need to choose a name, and the guy enters the name Handsome in the line. It's raining heavily outside, lightning is flashing and thunder is thundering. The roof of the young man's room is leaking, and Jaehyun has put a basin under the place of the leak. Deciding to check how much the basin was filled with water, the guy realized that soon the basin would have to be freed from water again. Jaehyun is successfully trained in the game. While he was admiring the character he created, the young man decides to make a post on a social network. In the post, he attaches a photo of his character, nickname, and calls other players to play together. In the next second, the friends section is filled with applications and messages from users. Someone praised a beautiful character, someone called to unite and play together. One of the girls was looking for a guy to play together. After seeing this message, Jaehyun is thrilled, but he quickly returns to reality and remembers today. A guy will never have a chance to live at least once with such an appearance. While the young man was talking about this, his phone was starting to run out. Noticing this, Jaehyun quickly plugs the charger into the socket. Suddenly, a bright flash of lightning and the sound of thunder can be seen outside the window. Jaehyun decided not to pay attention to the lightning, because he is too passionate about the game. Lightning strikes the roof of the apartment, which causes a short circuit. While the young man was holding the phone in his hands, a strong electric shock passes through his body. The whole body trembles and seems to glow. In the next second, Jaehyun sees the darkness and hears the smell of orange. The guy opens his eyes and sees his computer monitor on fire. He picks up a basin of rainwater and pours it on the monitor, but it doesn't help. Then the thought comes to his mind that he could have died from an electric discharge. After examining his hands and concluding that everything is fine with him, Jaehyun tries to find an explanation for the fire. He assumes that this was due to wet spots on the ceiling, and electricity passed through the whole house. After giving up trying to figure out what happened, Jaehyun decides to get out of the burning house. The guy is going to call the rescue service and notices that the phone was not damaged after such a strong electric shock. As soon as the young man dialed the service number, he remembers about his mother. Jaehyun runs to his mother, kicks down the door and notices her lying on the floor. The guy's eyes turn bright blue, and a shield appears in front of him. Realizing that mom is unconscious, the guy lifts her on her back and notices that she is too light. Jaehyun's attention was attracted by a note from her mother which she wrote to herself. The note said that if she saved a lot more, she would be able to buy a good school uniform for her son when he graduated from high school. And the last encouraging line, which says that everything will work out. After reading the note to the end, Jaehyun realizes that his mother was saving money to buy a new uniform, and he feels ashamed in front of her. But the guy decides not to stop for a long time over the note and knocks out the glass door in order to get out of the burning house. A piece of glass hits the woman, and a cut remains on her cheek. But in the next second, the area around the wound begins to glow blue and green, and the wound quickly tightens. While Jaehyun was carrying his mother on his back, he only asked for one thing, for his mother to come to her senses. An ambulance takes Jaehyun herself to the hospital. The woman inhaled a lot of gas. Doctors also report that mom has external dialysis syndrome caused by serious brain and lung damage. The woman fell into a coma. After the announcement of the doctor, tears begin to flow down the cheeks of the young man. He asks the doctors to bring his mother to consciousness, but the doctor only informs them that they can only monitor the patient's condition. The doctor also adds that the guy should be ready for any outcome of events. The doctor also informs that there is no guarantee of recovery, but hospitalization may take a long time. A man in a white coat asks Jaehyun about other family members who could support the woman. The young man only replies that mom has only him. His father died when the guy was still a child. Upon hearing this, the doctor asks about paying the hospital bill. After all, Jaehyun is still a student, and it will be difficult for him to pay such an amount on his own. But the young man calms the doctor down and says that insurance has been issued for him. Mom took care of insurance so that there would be no problems in emergency situations. One day, Jaehyun's mom decided to do everything to get insurance. One day, mom gets together with her friends and talks about insurance that can cover any hospital bills or injuries. But mom's friends thought her words were nonsense, so the woman decided to take out insurance again with mom mean. Jaehyun's mom always saved money, so there were a lot of makeup samples on her dresser. The young man never understood why his mother was trying to cover her fortune with this insurance. But after a year, he realized why mom tried so hard. To calm down a little and distract himself from what happened, Jaehyun decides to drink water. Approaching the cooler, all visitors to the hospital pay attention to the young man, and delight is visible in their eyes. Noticing the way they look at him, the guy thinks that his face is dirty because he managed to visit the fire, cry and sweat. After these thoughts, Jaehyun decides to wash up and goes to the restroom. Approaching the mirror, the young man freezes in a daze. In the reflection, he sees a guy with an incredible appearance. Suddenly, all his thoughts were paralyzed and he was in a panic. Immediately after the rush of fear and the flood of doubts, the young man was out of his consciousness and could not even find his glasses. Now Jaehyun sees clearly. His vision has become much better. Everything changed, as if everything had stopped. What the young man could not do before, today, in a strange way for him, was too simple. The guy took it for a strong adrenaline rush, but in the middle of the fire, mom fell into a coma and he was fine. Then Jaehyun remembers about the game in which he created exactly the appearance he has now. Thinking that he is not himself because of the electric shock, the young man begins to slap himself on the cheeks. After an endless stream of thoughts to make sure that he does not think, Jaehyun decides to turn to the man who was with him in the toilet and was busy with his own affairs. The guy lightly hits the man on the shoulder to draw attention to himself, and asks if the man finds him attractive. The man was confused, but replied that the young man was quite handsome. Jaehyun decides to test the game, but the trial version has ended, and now he will not be able to connect. In his head, the young man asks the question of how he will return to his body and how he will live now. A few days have passed, but mom's condition has not improved. The house burned down and Jaehyun decided to stay in the hospital. He was sleeping in a hospital bed next to his mom, washing clothes in the hospital laundry. He also had 3 meals a day in the cafeteria. The hospital has all the conditions for life, but the guy is not used to it yet. He notices constant stares at himself. The young man always faces the enthusiastic glances of other patients. All the people treat him politely, and they put a couple more pieces of meat in the canteen. The young man sits down at a table and starts eating. People keep looking at the guy, and he still can't get used to it. Jaehyun puts a piece of meat in his mouth and remembers that he has the last meal ticket left in the cafeteria. The young man spent all the money from the bank card, but soon he will need it because the school year will begin, and Jaehyun enters high school. Then the guy remembers about the insurance and decides to go to the bank to check the account on the card. He goes to the ATM and checks the balance. The young man sees the amount paid for insurance. Seeing this huge amount of payments, the guy realizes how important insurance was for mom. Jaehyun tries not to think about it, but he is often visited by the fear of being alone. He would be happy if he had a best friend at school. After a while, the school year begins. Jaehyun bought himself a beautiful school uniform and the necessary supplies for studying. The young man approaches the gate of the school, but there are no other students there, and Jaehyun thinks that he came too early. While the young man is enjoying his new appearance and is already dreaming about the appearance of friends in his life, a beautiful girl in headphones turns out to be behind him. She pulls one earphone out of her ear and asks the guy to make way since she can't get through. Jaehyun apologizes to the student and frees her passage. The young man felt ashamed of his act, but he decides not to stay on the spot and goes to his class. Entering the office, the guy sees the same girl he encountered at the school gate. He wants to say hello to her, but they are alone in the classroom and it becomes awkward for him. Besides, the girl was wearing headphones. The young man concludes that the girl does not care about what is happening around and decides not to disturb her. Instead, he puts his hands on the desk, puts his head on them and decides that he should take a nap, because he woke up early. The young man wakes up from the loud exclamations of a student sitting next to him, who was playing a game. Completely forgetting about the dream, Jaehyun quickly joins the game process and explains to the neighbor on the desk how to do the right thing to complete the game. A screamer appears on the screen, and the student puts down the phone, turning to Jaehyun. A schoolboy sees his neighbor's face and jumps away from him. The student falls off his chair, and other classmates think that a fight has started. Jaehyun helps a classmate to get up from the floor, and classmates notice the young man's face. All the girls immediately turn all their attention to the guy, and the male part of the class is clearly dissatisfied with the appearance of a handsome man in the classroom. Both guys sit down, and Jaehyun says that they behave too loudly, and now everyone is looking at him. The student replies that it's not about their behavior at all. Jaehyun decides to check if his classmate is hurt, and discovers a bruise on the back of his neck. Then Song-ho replies that he was surprised by his neighbor's face more than the cast in the game. After Song-ho introduced himself, the classmates say it's nice to meet them. After getting acquainted, the young man asks Jaehyun to go through that ghost again, since he has not been able to go through it himself for a long time. While the guy was explaining to Song-ho how to pass this test correctly, the bruise on the young man's neck lights up green and passes quickly. At recess, students go to the cafeteria. Jaehyun is standing in a big queue and is thinking about how he can buy food as soon as possible. Then three guys appear next to him, in the head of which was Kang Kai-kal, the coolest guy of the school. Kai-kal tells Jaehyun that he can take whatever he wants. He treats. Two guys who were with Kai-kal ask the young man if he lives in this city. They had the feeling that they were seeing Jaehyun for the first time. Then there are a lot of questions, and the guys decide that Jaehyun trainee. They also ask what position the young man occupies in the group and how long he has been training. After all the questions asked, Kai-kal says that since Jaehyun has such a face, from that day on he will be in their gang. The young man does not believe in the words that Kai-kal just said. It seems to Jaehyun that all this is a test. While the four guys were talking, Song-ho walks up to the cafeteria and orders a burger and coke. Kai-kal and his friends are furious. They turn around and see a guy who, in their opinion, passed without a cue. But Song-ho doesn't understand what the student is talking about. After all, he thought they were just talking. Kai-kal grabs Song-ho's hand, and the young man's jacket button flies off. The student bends down to pick up the button, and the three guys start taunting Song-ho. They point to his worn-out school uniform and call him a lost puppy. Sun-ho's father is the owner of a small diner, so this moment does not go unnoticed. Kai-kal approaches Jaehyun and throws his arm over his shoulder, saying that if he is friends with people like Song-ho, then he will fail in life. The offenders did not calm down and continued to mock the poor kid. In an instant, all the memories from his poor life fly through Jaehyun's head. The young man turns his head towards Kai-kal and tells him to get out of here, calling the guy trash. Kai-kal and his friends clearly did not expect this, so they begin to threaten him with violence. Kai-kal grabs Jaehyun by the shoulder. His arm is straining so much that the veins bulge on it. The young man intercepts the offender's hand and squeezes it. Not a single muscle moved on the guy's face, which could not be said about Kai-kal. Beads of sweat appear on his forehead, and panic and fear are visible in his eyes. Jaehyun squeezes his hand with such force that the offender did not expect it. Kai-kal screams for his hand to be released, but the young man doesn't care about his words. At some point, Jaehyun still lets go of the offender's hand, and he falls to the floor. The young man looks down on the bully and says that it's not worth talking to him like that. Then the young man calls Song-ho and they leave. Kai-kal gets up from the floor and looks at his hand. There is a bright red handprint on it. It seemed to him as if his arm had been torn off. Classmates walk down the school corridor and discuss how Kai-kal got. Jaehyun didn't want to be ignored, so he pretended to be strong. But the young man does not understand why Kang Kai-kal could not pull his hand away. While Jaehyun was talking about what happened in the cafeteria, Song-ho says that since they didn't manage to eat at recess, next time he will treat his classmate to something delicious in a cafe nearby. After hearing the good news, Jaehyun declares that he likes tteokbokki. The guy is very happy that he is going to have lunch with his friend for the first time. An alarm clock sounds in the room. The girl turns it off and gets out of bed. The same classmate who was once blocked by Jaehyun on her way to school. The girl turns on the light in her room and goes to the desktop to check the to-do list. Yoga and meditation are the first on the list, so the girl starts classes. After completing all her morning routine, the student is driven to school by her father. The schoolgirl is wearing headphones, so her man pulls one out of her ear and starts a conversation with his daughter. He is proud that the girl listens to online lectures from the very morning. He also praises the memory of his daughter, saying that the girl got it from her father. The student asks her father to give her the earphone, but the man wants to talk to his daughter because he is sleepy. Then the girl asks her father why he was working late with the patient again. After all, the schoolgirl is also worried about the health of her dad. The schoolgirl reaches the school and goes to class. Sitting down at her desk, she checks her to-do list and realizes that she has completed all the morning tasks. So she puts down the list of things to do and decides to listen to music. At the science lesson, the teacher praises Soa for being the winner of the experiments. Her results are impeccable. At the physical education lesson, the girl again performs all the tasks flawlessly. The teacher notices that she could become a professional athlete. In all other lessons, the girl gets top marks for assignments and gives correct answers to all questions. Song-ho, who was sitting at the last desk with Jae-eun, says that he will never be able to achieve the same success as Soa. These two believe that people should be modest in everything, so they get low math scores and remain happy that they are losers. After the showdown with Kang Kai-kol, Jae-eun began spending time with Song-ho. He finally had a best friend. Friends are sitting in class and joking about their scores on independent work. Song-ho tells his friend to be more modest, because his result on his own came out 3 points higher than Sun-ho's. While friends were joking and having fun in every possible way, Jae-eun comes to realize that now he really enjoys school life. But he remembers that the conflict with Kai-kol is not over, and the young man should not forget about it. Song-ho is standing in the school corridor. Two girls run up to him and give him a letter in a pink envelope with a sticker in the middle in the shape of a heart. One of the students quickly hands out a letter, and the schoolgirls run away. A guy comes to class and puts various gifts, notes, letters from girls on Jae-eun's desk. Song-ho resents why he is given so many gifts. He does not even realize that all this is intended for his friend. Jae-eun's appearance has changed, and now he is very popular among girls. The young man does not want to upset his friend, so he does not tell Song-ho that all these things are not given to him. Jae-eun tells his desk neighbor that he got all these gifts because of his beauty. Song-ho, in turn, jokingly beats his friend. After a comic skirmish, friends sit down at the desk and start eating sweets that the girls gave. Kai-kol's gang looks towards the guys and are very angry. After all, even the most beautiful girl from a parallel class named Kim Hee-jin gave sweets to Jae-eun. Kai-kol tells his friends that the time has come, and it's time to take revenge on Jae-eun for what he did then. The guy looks at Jae-eun and starts talking about how he has a good grip. Kai-kol wonders if that guy can fight. He regrets that he didn't fight back last time. The guys put their textbooks in backpacks, and Song-ho suggests Jae-eun to go eat tteokbokki and pizza after school. The young man agrees and puts the last textbook in his bag. The corner of the book bends, and the guy realizes that lately it has become difficult for him to control his strength. A class meeting begins, and the teacher tries to calm the students down. When schoolchildren turn their attention to a man, and he begins his speech. The teacher says that enough time has passed since the guys joined the school, and they were able to get to know each other better. Therefore, today he is going to appoint the class president. First, the teacher wants to recommend Soa as a candidate for this post. Upon admission, she was in the top of the best students. After the proposal is put forward, the teacher gives the students the right to choose and asks about which candidates the guys can recommend. But there is silence in the classroom. Therefore, the man asks schoolchildren to be more active and participate in the election of the president. Then one of the classmates suggests the candidacy of Jae-eun. The other girls are furious because they also wanted to offer the young man to become president. After hearing this, Jae-eun is shocked. He doesn't understand why others see him as the president. Song-ho, looking bored, only says that if his friend is elected president, the teacher will always bother him, and they will have to walk less often. When Jae-eun hears from his friend that there will be difficulties with walking, he abruptly gets up from his seat and refuses this position. Then the teacher says that Jae-eun is the only one who was proposed by other students, and more than 2 people are required to vote. If there is no one the students can recommend, then we need someone who will voluntarily nominate their candidacy. Kai-kol understands that he cannot allow Jae-eun to become president. Therefore, he offers himself as president. 2 of Kai-kol's friends start chanting his name as support. Meanwhile, the teacher writes 3 names on the board: Soa, John Jae-eun, and Kang Kai-kol. The teacher announces the start of voting, and the students begin to shout out the names of the candidates. After the vote, Woo Jae-un and Kai-kol have an equal number of votes. Then Jae-un raises his hand and says that he does not want to be responsible and asks Kai-kol to become president. The teacher scratches the back of his head and does not understand why the young man refused such a position. The man says that the one who wanted to do this should do it, and appoints Soa as deputy president. Since the presidential election is over, the man announces that after each meeting he will monitor the cleaning of the classroom. After the end of the meeting, Kai-kol rises from his seat and says that classmates can congratulate the new class president. The students congratulate the young man, and Soa leaves the classroom. But before she can leave the office, Kai-kol's hand appears on her shoulder. The guy with his friends is standing behind the girl and asks her about cleaning. The student does not understand what the young man is talking about, because the teacher appointed the president as responsible for cleaning. Kai-kol, in turn, says that he is not going to do such nonsense, so he leaves it to the deputy. But the girl doesn't want to leave it just like that, so she calls Kai-kol by name. She says that the young man cannot shift it to others. The guy gets furious after the girl's words. He moves towards her and swings for a blow. Jae-un sees that Kai-kol is going to hit the girl, so he rushes to help. In his head, he just keeps saying that he must have time to save her. But the student didn't need Jae-un's help. The girl swings her leg to perform the reception and hits the president with such force that he flies off several meters. Witnesses of the incident are shocked. They didn't expect Soa to be so strong. One of Kai-kol's friends picks him up on his back and is about to run away. Soa, Jae-un and Song-ho run after them. The guy from the president's gang shouts after him that the girl will pay for what she did. Thoughts flash through Jae-un's mind that if he had agreed to become president, none of this would have happened now. Kai-kol is taken to the school medical center, and the nurse asks the students who did this to Kai-kol. Soa hesitated, and before she could say that she did it, Jae-un takes the blame. The nurse, in turn, asks why the young man did it, but Jae-un did not have time to come up with a reason why he could hit Kai-kol. Then Song-ho decides to intervene and talks about an incident that happened a couple of days ago in the cafeteria. The young man tells that Kai-kol decided to make fun of him, and Jae-un tried to help. Kai-kol's friend was about to speak out against the words said by Song-ho, but the second one stops the guy and says that Jae-un and Song-ho just crossed the line, and Kai-kol is not to blame. One of the friends tells the other that if he keeps talking, Song-ho and Jae-un will tell that it was Kai-kol who hit Soa first, so they better keep quiet. The nurse folds her arms on her chest and says that Kai-kol needs a good medical examination. The blow was too strong. A woman can't believe that students in their first year of high school did such a thing. The woman adds that now the students are under supervision and their behavior will affect their academic performance. Kang Kai-kol should be taken to the hospital, and the nurse will go to the staff room to call his parents. The woman also says that Jae-un, as the culprit of the incident, should apologize to Kai-kol's parents. At the end of her monologue, the nurse sends the rest of the students home. Song-ho goes outside, and Soa follows him. She asks him for forgiveness because the girl should have confessed what she did, but she was scared. The young man just laughs and replies to Soa that everything is fine. He and Jae-un aren't good at studying anyway. The girl still stands her ground and says that she is really sorry, and tomorrow she is going to confess everything. But Song-ho dissuades her from this venture. The young man also says that Kang Kai-kol will not be at school for some time, and they will return famous. Soa, lowering her head, says that they will be punished because of her. But Song-ho doesn't care about that. He is only interested in how the girl managed to hit Kai-kol like that. A smile appears on Soa's face, and the girl tells the young man that she practiced taekwondo for self-defense. She had fun doing it, so she continued and got a black belt. The astonished young man turns to Soa and asks about how she managed to get a black belt. The girl says that she was scared, and this is the first time she hit someone. Soa then decides to ask Song-ho for Jae-un's number, but the young man refuses. The guy thought that Soa had fallen in love with Jae-un and told the girl that if she was interested in him, then she should ask for the phone number herself. Soa was confused after the young man's words, so she stops. The girl replies that she does not need a relationship, and if Kai-kol is sent to the hospital, she will need to visit him and apologize. Therefore, she needs Jae-un's number in order to ask for the ward number. Song-ho laughs in response and still gives his friend's phone number. Meanwhile, Jae-un is standing by the bed in the infirmary. He looks at Kai-kol and, lifting his bangs, looks at the bruise on his forehead. Realizing that Kai-kol most likely has a concussion and a bruise will remain, the young man is going to remove his hand from the head of a classmate. But the glow appears in his hand again, and Jaehyun is very surprised by this. The blue glow becomes brighter, and while, without realizing it, Jaehyun is treating Kai-Call, the door to the medical center opens, and the young man is scared. The bright glow does not stop, and the young man begins to panic. The curtain behind which Kai-Call and Jaehyun were standing is opened by a nurse. She starts talking about her parents, but is interrupted. The nurse and Jaehyun are in the hospital. A woman is talking on the phone with Kai-Call's parents. She informs them that she will contact them when she has sorted out the registration and the hospital bill. Next to him sits a drooping Jaehyun, who recalls what happened in the first aid post. After the nurse opened the curtain, she saw the pale face of the young man and thought that he was also ill. Then she approached the patient and noticed that the bruise on his forehead had become smaller. But apart from the fact that the bump became smaller, the woman did not notice anything else. She didn't see the blue glow that surrounded Kai-Call's head. Kai-Call was taken to the ward. His father came to the young man, so the nurse and Jaehyun bent down to apologize for what had happened. The woman says that from now on she will be more attentive to her work and will not allow such situations again. Kai-Call's father replies that his son is not so weak to feel sorry for him. He then shifts his gaze to Jaehyun. A man asks a young man if he is engaged in some kind of sport. The guy slightly unbends and answers in the negative. Then the man says that he gave Kai-Call a good shake, and the young man looks quite strong. The father suggests Jaehyun to go to their gym and work out there. The man promises that if he learns well, he will be able to fight back against any classmate and no one will even dare to approach him. The teacher intervenes in their conversation and asks to do without mistreatment. A nurse enters the room and announces that it's time for Kai-Call to change the IV. The teacher decides to leave the ward. The nurse who came to change the IV recognizes Jaehyun. She asks him what he's doing here. The young man answers her that his friend is in this hospital. Then the teacher asks how they know each other. Jaehyun says his mom is lying here. The teacher tells the student that she wishes his mother a speedy recovery. She also adds that she must personally check on her. Jaehyun and the teacher go to the ward to the young man's mother. The woman is horrified and asks what happened. Jaehyun talks about a fire that recently occurred in their house, so mom fell into a coma. After hearing about the fire, the teacher asks where the student lives. The young man replies that he lives here as his mother's guardian. The woman also asks about other family members, but the schoolboy says that he and his mother live together. A shiver runs through the teacher's body, and she whispers to herself that the situation at home is one of the reasons for the student's behavior. Noticing the teacher's condition, Jaehyun wonders if everything is okay. When they leave the hospital, the teacher apologizes to the student for seeing her in such a state. She also says that she has already informed the director about everything. They can't do anything about the violation, but the woman promises to do something. At the end, the teacher adds encouraging words about Jaehyun's mom, and they say goodbye. Returning to the hospital, the guy again remembers what happened at the school medical center. He is sure that some kind of light emanated from his hand, which only he sees. After that, the bruise on Kai-Call's forehead disappeared. The young man looks up and looks at his reflection in the window of one of the wards. He understands that with the appearance of a new appearance, he also has abilities thanks to the game. Deciding that thanks to his abilities he will be able to cure his mother, he breaks off and runs to the ward. The young man approaches the hospital bed and puts his hand to his mother's forehead. The guy sentences himself the words that it's worth trying. After the young man's hand is near the woman's head, his eyes light up blue. A blue glow appears around Jaehyun's mom's head. The young man sees this and is very happy because his mother will wake up soon. But nothing has changed. Then the student decides to repeat it again. But a message appears in front of him, which says that it takes time to reuse the healing touch ability. The young man is very surprised by this. He also notices that if you open your eyes, the message disappears. As soon as the waiting time is over, Jaehyun reappears a message stating that the healing touch uses mental power to restore vitality in small amounts for a certain period of time. At some point, Jaehyun realizes that this ability is activated when he raises his hand, and it will be available for a while. The young man also assumes that when he closes his eyes, he will be able to see all the information about the game. And he's not wrong. Jaehyun puts his hand to his mother's forehead and closes his eyes. His mom's health status bar appears in front of him. Her vitals are very low, so it's hard for Jaehyun to make her wake up. Indicators called poisoning and bleeding are highlighted in red. It was the gas that caused lung damage, and because of this, mom's energy drops. Also, the indicators paralysis and coma are highlighted in red. The young man begins to panic. After 10 attempts to bring mom to her senses, her vitality is not added. Jaehyun is at a loss. He does not understand how he can maintain his mother's condition. The guy abruptly gets up from his chair and walks up to the wall. Leaning on her, he begins to swear at the situation that came out. Because of the anger boiling inside him, the young man decides to release her and hits the wall with his fist. Because of its strength, a through hole is formed in the wall. Seeing that he broke through the wall, the guy tries to pull out his hand, and a lot of thoughts fly through his head. He doesn't understand how he did it. Jaehyun still managed to pull his hand out of the wall. As soon as he was able to do this, the young man looks into the hole and sees a boy there. The child stands with his mouth open from shock and looks at the hole in the wall. When Jaehyun realizes what's going on, he asks the boy if he's hurt himself, but the child starts crying and runs away. Jaehyun runs out of the ward in order to calm down and explain to the boy that the guy does not pose any threat. While the child was running away from the young man, he turns around at Jaehyun's voice, stumbles and falls. The guy runs up to the boy. He begins to cry even harder, and the young man notices that Minwoo has injured his knee. Jaehyun lifts the boy's pant leg to make sure of his words. A bloody wound formed on his knee. When the young man decides that he needs to call a nurse, the wound heals from the touch of the guy. The boy is delighted after what he saw. He calls the young man a real hero and is no longer afraid of him. While the child was admiring Jaehyun's abilities, the guy suddenly has a headache. After that, a message appears that the young man has reached the second level. A message appears on the red plaque. It says on it that the guy has only 1% of his strength left. Jaehyun is scared by this message. He does not understand when he managed to spend so much energy. Then the young man realizes that because of the transition to a new level, he has a headache. But it doesn't even have a charger to charge. A little later, a nurse comes and takes Minwoo to take him to his parents. The guys say goodbye, and the girl asks about the drawing on the wall. The boy answers her that he drew it. The picture showed Spider-Man and Min W. Thanks to the boy, Jaehyun was not caught when he made a hole. A little later they will definitely fix it. Jaehyun is sitting in mom's room, next to her hospital bed. The young man grabs his head. The pain is so intense that even the body cannot be controlled. The student decides to take a nap. He should get better after that. The guy falls asleep and a message appears saying that the fatigue limit has been reached. The character has switched to inactive mode. Logout will occur automatically within a few minutes. In the morning, Jaehyun wakes up with his usual face. After waking up, the guy feels hungry, so he decides to go to the cafeteria and eat. The young man approaches the elevator and Soa comes out of it. She is going to call Jaehyun and is wondering if she will wake the guy up with her call. Jaehyun passes by the girl with a phone in his hands. Classmates pass by each other, everyone is in their own thoughts. Jaehyun doesn't understand why he's so sleepy, and Soa is wondering if it's worth calling Jaehyun. The girl still calls the young man, and his phone starts vibrating. The guy looks at the screen and sees an unknown number. Mistaking it for spam, he hurries to the elevator. Soa turns to the guy, but realizing that it's not Jaehyun, leaves. The young man did not pick up the phone, so Soa decides to write a message. She writes to the guy that she wants to know the room number of Kai Call and asks him to answer as soon as he can. Jaehyun gets a message, and he starts typing a text with the ward number. The guy goes down to the cafeteria and asks for more pork cutlets. The female cook does not understand what the guy is talking about and answers him that one cutlet is intended for a person and asks the next person to come up. Jaehyun doesn't understand what's going on. They didn't even say hello to him today. The student returns to the ward and stops by his mother's bed. He remembers yesterday's headache and thinks that he can already use his abilities on mom. But the young man notices that even if he slept a little, everything is too vague in his eyes. Jaehyun decides that he needs to wash his face. He walks into the bathroom and sees his real appearance in the mirror. The young man is horrified after seeing his real self. The student sits on the floor next to his mother's bed and starts to get nervous. He doesn't know what to do next. He entered high school with a handsome face and will return as an ordinary guy. He just managed to find a friend. He began to live a happy school life. A nurse enters the room. She says that it's time for injections for patient Hong Min Ya. The nurse sees an unknown young man and asks him where Jaehyun is. He replies that Jaehyun has gone away for a while. The woman is surprised that Jaehyun has left the ward. Then she decides to ask if they are the same age. The young man responds positively. The woman says that Jaehyun is so tall, so sometimes she forgets that he is a schoolboy. The nurse also suggests that it is not easy for students to live. After all, Jaehyun looks like a star, and this guy is just an ordinary schoolboy. She thinks that because of this difference, guys often get into awkward situations. After the nurse has done the necessary procedures, Jaehyun approaches his mother. He understands that even if he puts his hand to her forehead, nothing will happen, because the young man has already lost his strength. He can't see well again, and all the clothes are too big. In the cafeteria, Jaehyun is no longer the main guest, and the nurse was completely indifferent to him. If he hadn't become that John Jaehyun, he wouldn't have known what it would be like to live differently. The guy will no longer be able to go to school, and no one in the hospital will believe that he is the patient's son. Tears begin to flow down the young man's face, and he realizes that he is really lonely now. Jaehyun remembers the day his mom made tonkas and they had dinner together. Only mom loved Jaehyun so much. The young man does not believe that there is no way to return that ability. Then Jaehyun, full of determination, goes to buy new things and glasses. After a little shopping, the young man goes to the library to find out if it is possible to return the abilities. Since the game has not officially been released yet and there is no access to it, the student decides to read the information about the lightning strike. After all, it was thanks to that blow that he got the appearance of a handsome man and the abilities of a healer. The guy finds information that getting an electric shock from lightning is a rare phenomenon. But if it happened, then there is a possibility of death. After reading everything that was written on the internet, Jaehyun decides to find more information in books. He goes to the bookcase and starts searching for the necessary literature. Having collected a large stack of books, he is asked to stop and Soa appears behind him. The girl put her hand on the young man's shoulder in order to attract his attention. Jaehyun turns around and sees his classmate. Jaehyun did not expect to meet his classmate in the library. The young man drops the books on the floor out of fright, and the girl apologizes to him because it was her fault. Despite the fact that Soa was in the hospital and the library is nearby, it seemed strange to him that the girl came here on a day off. While the guy was collecting books that had fallen on the floor, he looks up at Soa and asks what she wanted to know. The girl in response hands him his phone and says that he forgot it on the bookshelf. Jaehyun takes his phone out of the hands of a classmate, and she goes down to help collect books. She sees how much literature the young man had in his hands, so she says that he reads a lot. Then she lists the genres of the books. Among them were works about natural disasters, science fiction, games and cartoon characters. While the young man is trying to find a suitable answer, Min W appears behind the closet. The boy calls his sister Soa and shows her comics about the alien boy. The child enthusiastically tells the girl about the comic book that he managed to find, and Jaehyun recognizes Minwoo and asks him about his knee. When the young man realizes that Minwoo does not recognize him because of the change in appearance, it becomes too late. At first, the boy does not understand what the unknown guy is talking about, but a little later, the child realizes that this is the same guy who helped heal his knee. After visiting the library, Jaehyun and Soa decide to go outside and sit on a bench near the nearest shop and have a drink. When Soa goes to the store, the young man asks the boy if he remembered what Jaehyun told him. The child repeats the guy's words that he is an undercover hero, therefore he hides his identity. The boy promises that he will not tell anyone the secret of his brother. Jaehyun says that Minwoo should keep it a secret from Soa's sister. The child assures the guy that he can rely on him. The young man decides to ask who Soa Minwoo is, if they are blood relatives. The boy tells that Soa is the daughter of a pediatrician, and sometimes she comes to the hospital on weekends. They play together. The girl leaves the store and approaches the guys with 2 small bags of food and offers them all to eat together. The guys start eating, and Soa notices that these two are similar. Despite the fact that they met only yesterday, the guys have already managed to get close enough. Minwoo, who is so shy that he can't even look the teachers in the hospital in the eye. The girl does not believe that the boy missed a person so close to him in such a short time. The girl watches as Jaehyun helps to remove the crumbs from the boy's mouth after eating pancakes. Soa notices the guy's careful relationship with the child and considers him cute. After all, not everyone will be able to win over a taciturn little boy. After the meal, the guys go back to the library. Jaehyun lifts the boy onto his shoulders so that he can get a book from the top shelf. And then Soa understands why Minwoo liked Jaehyun so much. Soa and Jaehyun are sitting at a table surrounded by a large stack of books, and Minwoo is reading a favorite comic book on a child's chair. The girl decides to ask the guy why he needs so many books, because in the library it is allowed to take no more than 5 pieces. She wonders if he will have time to read everything. Jaehyun looks up at her and says that he has enough of these books for a couple of days. The girl thinks about it and asks again why the young man needed so much literature. The guy replies to a classmate that he is going to write a novel about a man who turned into a hero after being struck by lightning. This is how he tells the further plot of the novel, which tells that when the hero woke up the next day, his powers disappeared, and he turned into an ordinary person again. The girl thinks it's a great idea for a novel. But then Soa remembers Jaehyun's words that the hero had superpowers. Then the girl assumes that he has used up all his strength, and therefore the transformation is over. Jaehyun doesn't understand what Soa is talking about. He wonders how he can use up all his strength. Either you don't have them, or you do. According to the young man, there can be no other option. But the girl says that everything the guy just said is nonsense. She believes that to use her power, you need a lot of energy. If you've spent all your energy, you'll be too tired to use your strength. Jaehyun doesn't understand what powers the girl is talking about. Then Soa cites people as an example. They can't work properly if they want to eat or sleep. Then the young man realizes that he spent too much effort yesterday. And even with superpowers, he is still an ordinary person. Jaehyun remembers yesterday's headache. He felt tired and depressed. He also remembers that even after he had breakfast, the feeling of hunger did not disappear. Then Jaehyun realizes that even being in another body, his needs remain the same. He still needs good nutrition and sleep. After the puzzle has formed in the young man's head, he grabs Soa by the hand, thanks her for the hint and runs away. When the girl realized that the guy had left, she remembers that she did not have time to ask his name. But it was too late. Jaehyun had already run out of the library. He ran as fast as he could while a lot of thoughts flew through his head. This game also has a fatigue system. If in the game mental forces do not have a common strength, then in life the opposite is true. When fatigue reaches its maximum value, the player becomes limited in his actions. Probably, if you restore all your strength, you can return back to the character's appearance. Jaehyun reaches the restaurant. He orders 5 servings of pork. Now that the young man has realized that his strength depends on nutrition and sleep, he is going to make up for it all. Jaehyun quickly finishes eating pork. The young man pays with his mom's card and leaves the restaurant. Leaving the room, the guy finally feels full. A message suddenly appears in front of his eyes, which says about logging into the game. The student sees this message and breaks off to find a deserted place. Jaehyun returns to the hospital and repairs the hole in the wall he made yesterday. He begins to argue that it is very difficult for a healer to raise his level in this game, because there is no skill for catching monsters. Having completed his reasoning, the student confirms the entry into the game, and he reincarnates into his character. Jaehyun runs up to the mirror to make sure of the character change. When he sees the handsome again, the young man decides to test his abilities. One has only to close his eyes and think, as an entrance window appears in front of him. In active skills, Jaehyun sees a healing touch and a damage shield, an ambient transparent shield capable of absorbing a certain amount of damage. In the tab with the passive skill, the young man saw an increase in physical strength. It was because of this skill that the student managed to break through the wall. However, this skill is absolutely useless in the game. But there was no reason to expect anything else because he is at a low level, and he only managed to complete the training, Jaehyun thought. Remembering about the level, the young man decides to check why he increased yesterday. Experience is needed to level up. In Jaehyun's case, he gets this experience by healing people. However, experience is not given in the game for the treatment of the team. The student comes out of the bathroom and stands near his mother's bed. He understands that with the skills he has now, he will not be able to cure his mother. The guy promises to do everything possible to heal her. If Jaehyun fails, he will come to the hospital every day and treat other patients. But if the kid uses mental strength, then his body will return to its former form, and then he will not be able to go to school. Jaehyun grabs his head because he's going crazy with his thoughts. Suddenly, a scream is heard from the corridor, and the young man rushes to help. The young man runs out into the corridor and sees a patient with a knife in his hands, who threatens the nurse. The man's voice breaks into a scream, and he demands to call the chief doctor. A crowd of patients are watching what is happening, and no one can help. The doctor told this patient that there would be no relapse, said that the man was healthy. A desperate patient screams at the whole hospital and asks for a cancer pill. After assessing the situation, Jaehyun feels the smell of fumes from the man. He is now standing in the middle of the hospital corridor and brandishing a knife, and the nurse is standing all alone. Fear and panic are visible on the girl's face. She tries to calm the drunk patient, but she does not succeed. The young man examines people around and does not understand why no one can help. Then the student understands that all the people around are also patients, so there is no one to help. When the man swings a knife at the nurse, Jaehyun runs up to the girl and activates the shield. After activating the shield, the young man manages to disarm the man and the knife falls out of his hands. All the people around see that the schoolboy was able to stop the man, and they are very happy about it. Jaehyun stands between the patient and the nurse and asks the man to stop. But in response to his request, the young man receives aggression, and then the young man thinks that he will be able to fight back. But the schoolboy does not have time to strike, and the man hits the boy in the stomach. The young man falls to the ground and holds his stomach. A man becomes and maliciously speaks about a schoolboy. Jaehyun doesn't want to be insulted, so he gets to his feet to strike back. But the man is ahead of him and punches him in the face. Jaehyun flies into the wall and realizes that he does not know how to fight at all. A nurse runs up to the young man and asks if he is alright. The student looks up at the girl and sees a question mark over her head. The police arrive at the crime scene, they detain the man, and 2 policemen take the drunk patient out of the hospital. The rest of the visitors and patients of the hospital are happy that everything is over and everyone is going to their wards. Meanwhile, Jaehyun is sitting in the ward, and the injured nurse is treating the wounds on his face. The girl thanks the young man for his help, because she is alive only thanks to him. A message about the completion of the mission appears in front of the young man. Recently, a question mark appeared above the nurse's head. Apparently, this was a sign of the progress of the quest. In real life, missions can also appear. Then, in front of the young man, he sees another message about moving to a new level and getting a new skill. While the nurse is treating the bruise on the young man's face, she remembers that he was also hit in the stomach. The girl informs that after she finishes her work, she will call a resident. The young man declares that he does not need a doctor because it does not hurt him. While he's talking about it, the guy is treating his bruise on his stomach. Since people may notice that he is treating his face, he decides to do it later. The nurse stands her ground. She tells the young man that even if he looks healthy, he should still be examined. She also adds that the police will arrive and it will be necessary to record the beatings. Then the girl decides to explain the situation to the young man. She says it's not that the patient destroyed the hospital equipment. That man has never been like that. And the patient is in a difficult situation right now. The hospital management decided not to file a lawsuit against the patient, and the situation with the student is a little different. Jaehyun tries to convince the nurse that he is fine and he is not going to write a statement. In addition, at the moment the young man is at the stage of change. The guy is thinking about a full examination, but he is scared by the thought that the results will show some kind of strangeness. It's 1:30 in the morning. Because of the nurse, who kept trying to persuade the young man to undergo an examination, he was only able to lie down. Jaehyun needs a good sleep to restore his mind. The student closes his eyes and remembers the completed quest. The boy opens the quest window, and in addition to the quest called Nurse in Danger, he sees another completed quest, Crying Baby. Then Jaehyun remembers a boy named Manhwa. It turns out that at that time his level increased due to the fulfillment of this mission. An epiphany comes to the young man. He realized that if he completed missions, he would be able to raise his level. Then Jaehyun might be able to get the skills that will help cure his mom. After the young man finishes dealing with all the quests, he still falls asleep. The student wakes up very sleepy as expected. He realizes that he should have slept longer to replenish his strength. The guy's face is swollen even more than yesterday. The pain was so severe that it hurt him even to brush his teeth. Jaehyun was sorry to waste his mental strength, but he had to use treatment so that he could go to school. The young man brings his hand to his face and uses the treatment. For a second, he wonders if the others can see that he is using this skill. The next day, a sleepy Song-ho and Jaehyun are sitting in the schoolyard. Jaehyun asks a friend why he looks so tired. Song-ho says that on weekends he helped his parents at work, and adds that he hates Mondays. Soa calls the guys by name and tells them that if they don't hurry up, they will all be late together. Traces of fatigue immediately disappear from the guys' faces, and they run after the girl. They collect garbage near the school grounds. Song-ho, who was holding a soda can in his hand, asks Soa why she told the truth to the teacher. After all, they were all punished in the end. The girl explains that she did it so that none of them would have problems. Kang Kai-kal is to blame for all this, and the guys have nothing to do with it at all. Jaehyun approaches the girl and takes a huge bag of garbage from her hands. When the young man brings the package to the dumpster, he tells Soa that it was self-defense on her part, and the girl is not to blame for anything. Song-ho, in turn, adds that no one will believe that Soa hit Kai-kal. After recovering, Kai-kal returns to school. An enraged young man enters the classroom, and everyone turns in his direction. The students begin to whisper that he was beaten by a girl. The young man intends to restore his authority and power among schoolchildren. Jaehyun and his friends were forced to clean up the school grounds, and after lunch they will have to go back to it again. Song-ho sees a happy Soa with a full tray of food. He is surprised and asks how the girl is going to eat it all alone. Soa, in turn, replies that she spent a lot of calories during the cleaning, so this is a normal portion. 3 students sit down at the table, and Song-ho jokes at the guys because of their portions. Classmates have a pleasant conversation and make fun of each other in every possible way. 2 female students notice Soa in the company of Jaehyun. They call the girl a hooligan and sincerely do not understand how she managed to get close to Jaehyun. While the other students are busy with lunch, Kai-Call approaches one of the students and pours food on his head. Kai-Call tells the young man to stop eating and take up sports. The bully's friends are standing nearby and also begin to mock the full student. Then Kai-Call decides to hit Jin-Soo. When a young man raises his hand to strike, Jaeon wants to go to the student's aid. When the young man gets up from his chair, his head starts to hurt again and a message appears that the character has only 3% of mental strength left. When Kai-Call is about to hit Jin-Soo, a red shield appears in front of the young man, and Jin-Soo manages to block the opponent's blow. It was Jaeon who helped the disciple. He used the skill Refraction, which returns the damage done to the enemy. Kai-Call does not calm down and is going to strike another blow. He raises his hand and hits the shield. The shield breaks, and the young man breaks his wrist. The bully can't stand such shame and pain, so he runs away from the dining room. The students who surrounded Jin-Soo don't understand what's going on. Song-ho dismisses the students, saying that this is not a performance. Soa asks about Jin-Soo's condition and tells him to wipe himself, and after he finishes, asks the young man to sit next to them. Song-ho looks around to find Jaeon, because recently he was standing next to him. The young man looks down at the floor and sees a friend unconscious. Then Song-ho lifts the classmate on his back, and they, along with Soa and Jin-Soo, go to the medical center. While Jaeon is unconscious, a message appears about the completion of the mission. When the friends get to the infirmary, the nurse asks Song-ho why Jaeon is unconscious and who he fought with again. The young man explains that the student did not fight with anyone, he just suddenly fainted. The nurse thinks that the reason is food, and then she asks the students about their condition. The guys reply that they are all right. The woman says that she does not observe external symptoms. The young man looks healthy. Song-ho objects and says that Jaeon looked tired and depressed in the morning. Soa also remembers that the young man ate a large portion at lunch. After listening to the students, the nurse decides to put Jaeon on a drip. After the woman has done this, a message appears stating that mental strength has begun a gradual recovery due to taking a mental strength potion. After a while, Jaeon comes to his senses. He jumps up from his bunk and does not understand where he is and what happened to him. He reads all the messages that came to him while he was unconscious and realizes that his mental strength has run out. In a panic, the young man opens the front camera to check if he has returned to his real appearance. But when he opens the camera, Jaeon discovers that he remains just as handsome. The student pulls back the curtain, and the nurse sees that the young man has regained consciousness and asks about his well-being. Jaeon gets out of bed and tells the nurse that he feels great. But he has a question. He is interested in what happened to him. The young man does not understand how his mental strength was fully restored and why he still looks like this. The nurse says that she failed to carry out the examination in the right way and suggests that the student was overworked. The woman also tells Jaeon that, despite the fact that he cares about his mother, the young man should also take care of his condition. The woman says that she put the student on a glucose drip an hour ago. She continues her monologue and says that usually those who take care of patients in the hospital do not take good care of their own health. The nurse assumes that due to the fact that the young man is always in the hospital, he also eats poorly. The nurse gives Jaeon a headache medicine and glucose lollipops. Tablets should be taken 3 times a day after each meal, and lollipops when the young man feels weak or tired. Lollipops can also not be eaten all the time. They should be taken only when Jaeon sees fit. The nurse asks the student to eat well and observe the sleep regime. The woman also tells Jaeon to come to her every week to check on her condition. She will give the necessary medicine. Jaeon takes the medicine from the head and the lollipops. A message appears in front of him stating that he has received the item Mental Strength Potion. Then there is another message about a new quest called Nurse Excitement. The nurse takes a promise from the student that he will follow her instructions. The woman exhales noisily and complains about a large number of incidents that have occurred in a short period of time. Recently, Kai-Call came to her because he broke his arm. Jaeon is surprised by this news, and the thought appears in his head that this happened because of the use of refraction. Kai-Call didn't tell the nurse how it happened, so she put on a cast, and now the young man is sleeping. A woman talks about the upcoming judo competitions. Kai-Call injured his arm, and because of this, he may have problems. Even though he is in the 9th grade, it will be important for him to participate in competitions because of university admission. Jaeon is lost in his thoughts. Kang Kai-Call was wrong, but the young man can't leave it just like that, because the competition is already close. The student approaches Kai-Call's bed and thinks about whether he should heal his hand. Jaeon did not want to treat Kai-Call, as he caused the young man a lot of problems. But despite this, the student felt ashamed in front of the school bully. If he fails to get into university due to injury, Jaehyun will feel guilty. Therefore, the young man takes a classmate by the hand and is about to begin healing. But Kai-Call wakes up. He sees Jaehyun in front of him, who is holding his hand and asks him what he is doing. The guy's cheeks turn red with embarrassment, and he quickly pulls his hand away. To Kai-Call's question, Jaehyun replies that he was interested in looking at the fracture. The bully rises from the bed and begins to threaten a classmate, turning to a scream. Hearing the students quarreling, the nurse looks out from behind the curtain and says that if they fight again, this time everyone will be forced to wash the school toilets. The guys, as if nothing had happened, smile and say that there is no question of any fight. Jaehyun gets upset because he didn't have enough time to finish the treatment of his hand. But now the young man can't do anything about it. A week later, judo competitions are held. Students return home by bus. The student who took the first place notices in what mood Kai-Call is, so he sits down next to him in the next seat. The student calls Kai-Call by name and he, noticing the presence of a person nearby, takes off his headphones. The student begins to say that he still can't believe that he took the first place. Previously, the guy had never managed to win in competitions. The boy is sincerely glad that he will be able to enter the university. Kai-Call, after listening to his speech, becomes enraged. He grabs the young man by the collar of his jacket and starts shouting at the winner. The guys sitting on the bus call the coach to help solve the conflict between the two students. Kai-Call's father approaches the swearing guys. He crosses his arms over his chest and demands to stop the fight since the competition has already ended. Kai-Call has to accept that he lost. The anger of a young man is a manifestation of the emotions of an offended loser, says the father. The coach takes the injured student away from Kai-Call and praises him for a job well done at the competition. The winner gets off the bus, and the coach tells him to have a good rest. Kai-Call and his dad are left alone on the bus. The young man picks up a silver medal and squeezes it in his hand. The coach tells his son to get off the bus. The father decides to punish his son for losing. The coach is furious that Kai-Call lost to a guy who has never played sports. The man tells his son to accept the position, and the young man rises to the bar. Ever since Jaehyun became a character in the game and his body underwent changes, it began to recognize normal daily life as a game system. Any medicine or food that increases concentration becomes a mental strength potion. If a young man talks to someone and makes a promise or fulfills a request, then he receives a sudden mission. The first time, Jaehyun was very surprised by this, but now it has become a common thing to get a quest. Song-ho, Soa and Jaehyun are sitting in the classroom. Song-ho asks the girl to show him the assignment, but she refuses. Then he turns to Jaehyun and says that a friend will show him the task. Jaehyun receives a message about receiving a regular quest called helping Song-ho with a task. Normal quests can be obtained if Jae-yuna is asked for a favor. The young man performs a quest and gives his neighbor on the desk a task. Soa is angry at this and says that the young man should not do this every time. The girl turns to the back desk and says that Jaehyun's tasks were completed incorrectly. Soa begins to list the numbers of tasks in which mistakes were made. The guys listen carefully to the girl. After that, we have a message saying that the mission helping Song-ho with the task was a failure. But Jaehyun doesn't get upset if he fails to complete some quest. After completing the mission, you can get a standard set of rewards, an increase in experience points or sympathy. The sympathy award is much more important than it seems, and the more favorable the quest, the more rewards you can get. Thanks to the experience that Jaehyun has gained during the entire time of completing quests, he is already at the initial stage of the 5th level. However, little experience is given for such minor tasks. Song-ho and Jaehyun decide to go to the store at recess, as both are hungry. The friends go out to the schoolyard and see Kai-Call and his company mocking Jin-soo again. A message appears about a sudden task called saving Jin-soo. In sudden tasks where you need to save someone, Jaehyun gets a lot more experience. This time, the young man decides to save Jin-soo and use the shield more discreetly. Jaehyun doesn't know how to fight, so he doesn't have a single chance of winning. Instead, the young man will be able to use the shield from a distance and secretly help Jin-soo. Song-ho shouts to Kai-Call and demands that the bully stop. Moments from the day he lost in the competition flash through Kai-Call's mind. The young man becomes furious and turns to the source of the sound. Jaehyun did not expect that his friend would call Kai-Call, because the young man had already used the skill. He needed time to protect Jin-soo without being noticed. An angry Kai-Call approaches Song-ho. The young man tells the bully that offending the weak is a low act. Kai-Call gets even angrier and says that Song-ho decided to annoy the wrong person today. The young man grins and his cry is heard all over the schoolyard. He calls Han Granny. No one understood what had happened. While Kai-Kal was trying to understand Song-ho's words, a ball flies from the football field at high speed right into the bully's face. The students who were on the field are indignant why Song-hee threw the ball in a completely different direction. The same hand granny approaches the guys. She turns out to be a student with a very beautiful appearance. She shouts at Song-ho and tells him that she has already warned him about what will happen to the guy if he calls her that at school. Kai-Kal's friends are confused. They don't understand where the ball came from. Song-ho tells Jin-soo to leave quickly before Kai-Kal realizes what has happened. The bully is sitting on the ground and holding his nose, from which blood is pouring. Song-hee approaches Kai-Kal and apologizes to him, explaining that she was actually aiming at Han Song-ho. The guy looks up and freezes. His cheeks are covered with blush and it seems to him that an angel or a goddess is standing in front of him. At school, the bell rings for the lesson, and the students scatter to the classrooms. While the students are busy with the lesson, Jaehyun writes a note to Song-ho, in which he asks who the girl is. The young man in response writes that this is his twin sister Han Granny. He deliberately provoked her to throw the ball and hit Kai-Kal. Jaehyun, Song-ho, Soa and Jin-soo are sitting in a restaurant and discussing a project. The girl says that Song-ho forgot about the group project, and Jaehyun did his task, but everything is wrong with him. Only Soa and Jin-soo prepared properly. Song-ho crosses her arms over her chest, taking the pose of an offended person, and says that since Soa is engaged 3 times more than others, she could do the task for the others. At the end, the young man adds that even if they had done the project, the girl would have been unhappy with the result anyway. Soa get angry after Song-ho's words. The girl says that since today the guys came unprepared, then the same situation will happen again next time. If this continues, the Soa will be forced to tell the teacher about everything. Song-ho's mom comes up to the table where a group of friends were sitting and starts swearing at him for the fact that the young man does not study at all and, in addition, substitutes his friends. A woman brings a tray with food, saying that the guys must have a hard time because of her son's antics. Having placed all the food on the table, Mama Song-ho wishes the guys a pleasant appetite and a good rest. Friends taste each dish and admire the taste of each of them. Soa puts tteokbokki in her mouth, and the girl notices that they are moderately spicy, but at the same time sweet. Mom and son do not doubt the taste of their food, because they cook each dish according to a special family recipe. Jaehyun, Soa and Jin-soo confirm their words again and say that the food is cooked flawlessly. When the friends are done with lunch, Jin-soo asks the guys who is making a presentation for the group project. Soa points his finger at Song-ho and says it's his turn to make a presentation this time. Jin-soo did it last time, Jaehyun did it the day before last, and Soa did the first presentation herself. Song-ho, who was taking the dishes to the kitchen, stops and turns to his friends. He says he didn't do the assignment, so he doesn't know any information. If you ask the teacher, it will cause difficulties. Soa, in turn, answers the young man that he can read information on the topic while preparing a presentation. What students are preparing for a group project will appear on the exam. Therefore, the girl tells Song-ho that he will gradually begin to understand the information. Separate points are also given for the presentation. Then Song-ho asks what he should do if he forgets about the group project again. Since Soa performs the tasks best of all, he still offers the girl to take up the presentation. After all, the person who tries the most should get extra points. Song-ho tells the others that they don't have to worry, and he will complete his part of the group task as soon as there is time. Jaehyun notices that Song-ho is acting strangely today. He always joked about his poor performance at school, but it never came to this. The young man decides that the reason lies elsewhere. The door to the restaurant opens, and Song-ho's sister enters the room. She announces her return to her parents and notices her brother's friends at the table. Everyone pays attention to the girl, and Jaehyun recognizes Song-ho's sister. Soa turns around at the female voice, and the appearance of this girl seems familiar to her. This story begins on one of the very rainy days. A black cat sits on the roof of one of the houses of the night city and looks at the street between the tall houses, in which the lights have not been lit for a long time. A message with a fresh weather forecast sweeps through the city. The local station of the city reports that heavy rain, which began last night, will continue for about the whole of this week. Also, the meteorological service issued a warning about heavy rains of the yellow hazard category, which in general may be upgraded to the red line. But not all houses and buildings are not lit yet. A black cat is sitting right on the roof of the shop, where the lights have not yet gone out. There is a sign on the door with a brief and clear inscription, "Open." The owner of this bookstore slowly rearranges the books on the shelves. His hands are decorated with elegant white gloves. The owner is afraid that because of this rain there will be no visitors again today. A man frowns at such negative thoughts, but this person is trying to cheer himself up by the fact that there is a small chance that someone will forget his umbrella and then he will have to look for a place to hide from the rain. Then this unlucky person will have the honor to enter this mysterious store. A man is pleased with such thoughts. He continues to look at books and rearrange them on other shelves. The owner of the bookstore calls himself such a good and kind person, and he hopes that this little act of his romance will bring him income. Although not, let it be better that this romantic act will bring the man more clients. He would like to talk to the visitors of the bookstore. For an elegant man, of course, money is not important, but customers are more important. It would also be very cool if visitors were impressed by the kindness and enthusiasm of the owner, and under this impression people would take and buy a couple of books from the topics that are available in this store. At this time, the night sky is decorated with a beautiful bright blue game that glows with a bright light. Terrible things happen under the moon. A lady with a sword is fighting with unknown people. She hits a huge bald man in a robe with a sword right on the right hand. It was a precise and powerful blow that mercilessly chopped off this man's arm. And the girl moves on. Then two more opponents run after her. They are extremely negative. Then the girl uses a dagger and with a quick movement of her hand and strikes the masked guy with this dagger, which suddenly appeared in her hand. A sharp dagger strikes the enemy with a direct hit to the head. The second man is shocked by this turn of events. While he is distracted from what is happening, his opponent girl is standing behind him. She radiates a negative and hostile aura. The girl grabbed the guy in the mask by the throat and is ready to cut him with another dagger. But the girl decides not to cut the guy's throat. She deftly moves her hands and wrings his neck. A sharp crunch characteristic of this action sweeps through the sky. The girl throws the dead guy in the mask away from her. Now, all the enemies of the mysterious lady have been defeated. Now she is alone in the middle of the street, and a downpour is pouring down on her from the sky, which still does not stop, throwing the lifeless body away from her. The girl realizes that she was previously injured because it was painful for her to turn and move her body. She has a characteristic wound on her beard, from which scarlet blood flows almost like a stream. The girl is very glad that it's finally over. It looks like 3 or 4 of her thighs are broken, but that's okay. She is thinking about what she should do in this situation. It also seems to her that even with the effect of spoiled blood, self-healing of the body and healing of wounds will take at least an hour. But it will be dangerous for the girl to wait this time on the street. It will really be dangerous. She urgently needs to find at least some shelter. A girl needs time, which is already short. She slowly, holding on to her wound, goes to seek shelter, and her defeated enemies remain behind her. They will never get up again. Now they are doomed to eternal rest. The faces of these 4 men express complete fear and horror. He froze in these expressions. Meanwhile, the girl is carefully exploring the area. She has not yet given up in search of shelter for herself. Suddenly, among the closed and dark buildings, she notices a light in the windows, and on the building itself he sees a sign open. The girl is surprised. Is this a bookstore? It's very strange. Why is he the only one of all the other stores open in this weather? Is it just a coincidence or is it a trap? You need to take this into account and be attentive to the end. The lady is slowly approaching this mysterious bookstore. She still doubts whether she should go there. Suddenly, the situation turns out to be more deplorable for her than it is now if she goes there. But then she realizes that she has no choice. In any case, she needs to hide somewhere as soon as possible. The girl tells herself to be brave and enter this bookstore. Finally, she opens the front door of the store. He sees a bell above the door, so now the owner of the store knows that someone has come to him. Apparently another person who needs help in such rainy weather. The dark-haired girl begins to move deeper into the bookstore. She slowly but surely approaches the counter where the owner of the store himself is sitting and reading a book. Seeing the girl, he was very happy and immediately distracted from reading. He closes the book and immediately greets the girl in his store. Here the man abruptly changes his face. He notices a lot of suspicious things only in the appearance of the lady. He says out loud that, apparently, he did not wait for customers for so long for nothing, because such a beautiful guest came to him. Wherever you look, this mysterious girl has a lot of stories. Now she's all wet, water is dripping from her, and she looks like a battered witch. The store owner will have to use his sales skill. Although, he abruptly changes his goal, because he would rather use the skill of talkativeness. Then the man offers the mysterious guest to take and use hot towels. If the lady wants to warm up, then she can safely take them. The lady does not like the words of the owner of the bookstore that he has been waiting for visitors for so long. It is also very suspicious that at first glance there is everything in this place that she might need right now. And it's all in a very ordinary bookstore. Apparently, this is not just an accident. It is quite possible that this person knows something that he should not know. The girl takes an ordinary towel and begins to wipe the water from her face with it. She thanks the owner of the store for his help, but she needs to warm up. This is enough. At this point, the lady assumes what kind of faction this person may be. From where? From the secret tower? Or maybe from the faction of the Society of Truth? Or is it even worse and this man was present at the Pueblo's party? So many questions, so few answers, yet the girl has. The lady can't know for sure, it's all at the level of her guesses. But in any case, this guy is not just a bookstore owner. He clearly has his own secrets. Then she decides to ask why the bookstore owner was waiting for her. Why did he say that? Then the man stretches out his hand towards the girl and says that yes, it's amazing. It's amazing how fate can sometimes bring two strangers together at first glance. The mysterious man replies that it seems that the girl is in an extremely difficult situation, so she needs help. At this moment, the man uses psychological suggestion, his first technique. It lies in the fact that words about problems do not carry any meaning by themselves. This is an ordinary psychological suggestion. The lady is in shock, as this gentleman said exactly. She has no choice but to respond positively to this, because the mysterious man is absolutely right. The reception continues its action. After all, as soon as a visitor relaxes and starts complaining about his problems, Mr. Lin immediately begins pouring honey into his visitor's ears in order to get closer faster. The lady says that she had one unpleasant problem. She thinks that right now she cannot judge for sure whether this man is her friend or vice versa, so she agrees with his words in order to study his personality and his goals in more detail. Mr. Lin says he regrets it, but if he understands correctly, but most likely, the girl's problems are problems in a relationship. Is he right? While saying this, Mr. Lin pours tea into a mug, and here is the second reception of the insidious Mr. Lin. And these are vague speeches. This is a very versatile technique, much respected charlatan and magician Lin. Its essence is that the meaning of a man's words should be so unclear as to subsequently leave room for maneuver, both for himself and for his interlocutor. The girl is stunned by this assumption of the man. What does he mean by that? Is that a plan somehow? Or what? Either he is trying to intimidate the lady, or he has known about everything for a long time. Then Mr. Lin puts a chair to the table and invites the girls to sit down and continue their conversation about all this. Unless, of course, the girl is not against such an offer. The lady is even more wary. Did outsiders really become aware of the uprising of the white wolves in such a short time? This can't be happening. After all, it can't be that Mr. Lin guessed all this so simply and by chance. Unless, of course, he was in control of the situation from the very beginning. Then everything goes exactly according to Mr. Lin's plan. She sits down at the table and holds out the tea that was poured for her earlier. She began to tell me that she had really been betrayed. One guy is to blame for everything that happened to her. At this time, Mr. Lin learns even more about the mysterious girl. He was able to see it in her with the help of the egg of the magic mirror. This is the egg of a magical creature capable of seducing the human mind. Because of this egg, years of friendly communication fell victim to greed and greed for profit. And it all went so far that the guy who caused the unpleasant mysterious lady used the forces of the organization to destroy the girl's former friends. This is a rather sad story. Mr. Lin is very surprised by this girl's story. That's the real drama. There were relationships, betrayal, and further depression. Now it's clear why she has such big problems. We urgently need to find the right medicine for the lady. Mr. Lin says there are only two sides to all this. It is possible that the girl has experienced betrayal from a person close to her, but then it means that it will happen to everyone. Now the girl is finally sure that Mr. Lin has known about everything for a long time. No, at the first opportunity, people will go on about greed, according to the same scenario. Sooner or later, everything will be the same and will fall into its predetermined places. The girl says that Mr. Lin is absolutely right about everything. But this betrayal cost the girl dearly and also hurt her badly. She has already seen all the ugliness of human nature, so what's the point of it at all? Mr. Lin analyzes what the girl said, that she really lost a lot and suffered a lot. Well, that's it. Now Mr. Lin understands everything. It must be that, most likely, the girl received a strong emotional trauma from a terrible person who cheated on the poor girl. And now, at this very moment, a master like Mr. Lin, the master of eloquence, comes into play. He says that all this has its advantages, but now, the girl knows what is real and what is not. And the girl should never feel sorry for the people who hurt him, because they are not worthy of any pity. Even if the girl was once close to such people, It seems to the girl that Mr. Lin's goal has become clear to her. Was he trying to use her to develop some kind of plan against the hunters? Mr. Lin is so clever with cunning and grace while hating hunters. It looks like this bookstore owner is a high-ranking dark magician. After the girl listened attentively to Mr. Lin's speech and now asks him what, in his opinion, she should do. Then Mr. Lin changes his face and tells the girl that since these are ordinary and worthless people, then she can calmly take revenge on them. And here is the time for Mr. Lin's reception, and these are purposeful tips. The man says that the girl should not be condescending with them in any case. The essence of the reception is to keep the visitor, and in order to keep the visitor, you need to make him a competent offer, taking into account all life circumstances, which is very different for the better from other offers. What? Should a girl take a turn away from these people? She is not mentally ready for this in any way. It seems that Mr. Lin is not going according to plan at all. But it doesn't matter because everything is ready. It's time to really get down to business. Here Mr. Lin smiles slyly and says that he thinks that the girl needs a certain book. Here he abruptly puts a book on the table, which, in the opinion of the gentleman, is suitable for the situation in which his guest today found herself. It's good that Mr. Lin was reading the confession just before all this. This difficult book is perfect for such a confused girl. What's it? Blood and the Beast. The girl has never even heard of such a title. She sees this book for the first time. But why did Mr. Lin decide to give it to the girl right now? What's the catch? Then the girl decides to open this book. But this is not an easy book at all, as it seemed at first glance. Inside it, on almost all the pages of the book, there is a strange dark red substance. This substance begins to envelop the girl with fast and faithful movements. It happens so quickly that she does not have time to understand anything. Gradually, this substance takes the form of a scarlet beast with huge white fangs. Now the girl is enveloped in tentacles. The girl does not yet understand what the meaning of all this is. Then the tentacles definitely turn into a beast. This beast has already lagged behind the girl's body. Now they are in a mug with a drink to the girl. The transformation into a beast has just been completed. Turning into a beast, a power obtained and controlled by blood. Hunters get their power from fantasy beasts by injecting dangerous tainted blood into themselves. At the mouth of the beast there is now a huge syringe with the same spoiled blood. There is also the fact that the higher the concentration of tainted blood, the greater the strength of the hunter and the stronger the transformation into a beast, which ultimately leads to death. However, Mr. Lin came up with a way to control this tainted blood. This is enough to undermine the entire system of power on which the community of hunters relies. Now the girl has finally understood what Mr. Lin wants from her. Did he really want her to do that? The gentleman says yes, that's what he needs. But all this is not for the sake of repentance, but for the girl to be honest with herself. This man probably knows that even if a broken woman looks strong and resilient, in fact she is still sad inside herself. And so, just a couple of words of comfort and a recommendation of a good book, as this girl is already on the verge of tears. Now it's time for Mr. Lin to use the original text from the book itself to instill self-confidence in this girl. He begins to make a speech, approaching the girl from behind. The book says that the trumpets will sound, marking the beginning of the day of judgment, and the hero will appear before the Almighty Judge with this book in his hands. And he will declare what he does, what he thinks, who he is, with the same frankness with which the hero talks about good and evil. Every person has the basest animal desires. Is all this true? Did she really write in Confessions? Now the girl should not worry at all, because calming people is Mr. Lin's specialty. She just needs to accept it and trust Mr. Lin, and after that, the girl will have a new life. And here is the fourth reception of the mysterious Mr. Lin. This is the final conclusion. It turns out that after the visitor has poured out his emotions to Mr. Lin, give him positive instructions, as well as self-confidence, so that the guest can act and solve the problems he will face in the future. So, it was an eloquence lesson from Mr. Lin. Did all the readers remember everything? Next, the man raises the mug with the drink up and says that he and the girl should drink to a completely new future. The girl also raises her mug up. She sincerely thanks the owner of the bookstore for his helpful advice. She will definitely follow them. After that, the girl drinks the drink offered to her in one gulp. Mr. Lin did not expect this at all, because there was definitely boiling water in the mug. She shouldn't have drunk it so quickly, but she took it and really did it. But the owner of the store just wanted to warm the girl from the inside with this drink. He carefully examines the girl. It seems that everything is fine with her now. Is this the power of the legendary skeleton? Now Mr. Lin sums up what just happened. He also asks the girl that she must have filled out a library card. Then the girl takes a pen and writes her name in the card in the line visitor. It turns out that the girl's name is Jai Jixu. Mr. Lin seems very familiar with this name. He definitely remembers one famous tycoon, Jai Bonong, who led the underground resource development in the lower city. And it seems that Jai Jixu is his only daughter's name. Mr. Lin is in shock. What a catch. A man can do a lot with this girl. He is very inspired. But now you need to drop your insidious ideas, because first of all you need to earn enough money to repair the store, and then everything else. The gentleman needs to calm down urgently. After all, the best way to earn money is to receive money regularly. Next, the store owner tells Jai Jixu that the book in his store is taken for a month, and the maximum delay in the delivery of the book is a week. Mr. Lin also adds that it's still raining outside, even a downpour, so he gives Jai an umbrella along with the book. The girl needs to remember to take it with her when she returns the book back to the store later. Jai Jixu is very grateful for the help she received. She is also interested in whether she can get to know Mr. Lin better. The owner of the bookstore is very surprised by this question. What is it? Did his earlier words sound like a real flirtation? But no, the gentleman needs to respond adequately to this. He tells Jai Jixu that his name is Lin Jai and he is a very ordinary but very sympathetic bookstore owner. The girl understands that the man does not intend to reveal his true identity at all. But at least for now, he should be on Jai Jixu's side. Next, the girl opens the umbrella and says goodbye to Mr. Lin, wishing him a good night. Lin Jai tells the girl to take care of herself and he will meet the girl once again. Lin Jai is very happy that another good deed has been done, and doing good deeds every day, a person will feel good. It is quite possible that this is what the being who forced Lin Jai to cross into this world had in mind. Next, the owner of the store needs to do the cleaning and prepare for the meeting of the next visitor. If today, of course, someone else looks into Lin Jai's bookstore, Jai Jixu is moving further and further away from the store. She thinks Lin Jai is a very creepy guy, so now she must deal with the traitor as soon as possible, and then come back again and meet the owner of the bookstore. The plan is very clear. Here a mysterious figure in a dark hat and an umbrella with an umbrella appears on the way of the girl. Jai Jixu feels that something is wrong, so he grabs the book Confession more tightly. Azure Continent, Nazan City. It's raining heavily in the city again. Lin Jai is revisiting his huge book library again. He comes across a book called Rituals and Magic by the authorship of Lin Jai himself. He opens and also glances over the text. Reading this book, the owner of the bookstore feels a pleasant nostalgia. After his transition, Lin Jai settled in the city of Nazan, and now he has been living here for 3 years. In 2017, Lin Jai worked at the university library, then he was a doctor of folklore studies. A student is approached by a library employee. She says it's time to close. Then why isn't Lin Jai going anywhere? He replies that he wants to read some more books. He tells the girl to leave, and then he himself will close the door to the library. The girl understood Lin Jai. She is saying goodbye to the teacher and will be glad to see him tomorrow. She's already leaving. Another girl meets a girl from the library. She says it's late enough, then why isn't teacher Lin leaving yet? Another girl apologizes for being late at the library. She is sorry that she made her friend wait. She also says that it's because teacher Lin loves books very much. That's why he decided to stay a little longer. The girl once heard that he even seems to collect books and spends his entire salary on buying them. The girlfriend of this girl does not believe in what she said. It seems to her that the girl is simply exaggerating, because this cannot be. At this moment, the teacher finally finished reading the last book he took. It's already deep night outside. A bright blue moon is shining in the sky. There are no clouds in the sky. Lin Jai, as promised earlier, closes the library door. Now, all the preparations for the ritual are completed. On the floor, right in front of Lin Jai, there is a huge bright yellow pentagram. Inside it there are many different mysterious symbols, words and signs. Lin Jai is pleased that the preparation of the ritual site has finally been completely completed. A man knows that wishes definitely don't come true by magic. But as long as Lin Jai has a single glimmer of hope, he is willing to pay any price for it. He puts his hand on the pentagram and asks her to give him all the books of this world. But the man's request for some reason does not work. Lin Jai is very upset about the failure. But, on the other hand, he knew that this would happen, that nothing would work out. After all, some magic circle will not fulfill his wish. But suddenly, some scary creature from another world appears behind the guy's back. This creature has no face, it has only a huge mouth, from which snow-white teeth are visible. At first, Lin Jai does not realize that he is not alone in the building. But when the monster approaches the guy from behind, when he feels someone breathing from behind, but quickly turns around, he suddenly feels uncomfortable. He turns around abruptly, but strangely enough, the monster is no longer there. Instead of no, there is a huge door behind Lin Jai, which depicts a huge glowing bright eye. It's like he's watching a guy from another world. This door looks very unusual. It depicts bright red patterns that are located along the entire length of the door. This door took all of Lin Jai's attention. After all, it was at this moment that the man realized that if he did not open this mysterious door now, then his dream of books would definitely come true. But the price of this adventure is never to return to Earth again. This is a very high price, but Lin Jai values his dream too much, so he is willing to pay such a seemingly high price. But a satisfied grin appears on his face. Lin Jai has almost opened this magic door. But this moment is already in the past. Lin Jai walked through that door and ended up in Nazan. Lin Jai didn't know that so much time had passed since that moment. Mr. Lin didn't even have time to notice it. This is all because Lin Jai's current life is no different from his previous life. It seems to a man that the payment he once paid is quite decent. Shouldn't such a ritual be paid for? The answer is obvious. In this world, there is no system that could issue tasks, and also some cranks do not come to Lin Jai, so the days of staying in Nazan flow so calmly and so unhurriedly. Isn't that great? Lin Jai is really happy about this. He is positively glowing with happiness. He likes everything in his current reality. He does not regret at all that he exchanged this world for Earth. After all, now, Lin Jai can update the bookshelves every day, and also read so many books that are still unread. This is basically what Lin Jai has been dreaming about all his life. He just needs to communicate with visitors. It turns out that life's happiness lies in such little things. Lin Jai made himself some tea again, but now he was thinking about something again. He worries that his bookstore has not had new visitors for a long time. And it seems that Lin Jai's communication skills have not deteriorated yet. This is very cool. But one thing pleases that the girl who previously came to Lin Jai will certainly become happier today. Meanwhile, Jai Jixu is standing in the middle of the street without moving. A man in a raincoat and hat is slowly but surely approaching a very frightened girl. Oddly enough, this man also has a book in his hand. I wonder where she came from. At this moment, the man continues to move towards Jai Jixu. Here, he passes by the girl. At that moment, he notices the girl's book Confession from the girl's hand. But poor Jai Jixu can't move. Her hand is frozen. Then the man in the mask turns his gaze back to the girl who has become petrified with fear and fright. The stranger in the hat praises the confession that the girl chose, as if he approves of her choice of the book. He says Jai Jixu is definitely lucky to have her. The girl feels trapped, as if a snake has encircled her, and is curling on the girl's body, gradually depriving her of the opportunity to breathe deeply. Jai Jixu even had sweat on her forehead. She really is completely terrified of this man and his heavy and oppressive aura. In his hands he carries an interesting book. This is Emptiness and Silence. The stranger walks on, and Jai Jixu leans against the wall. She doesn't care about the rain anymore, so she dropped the umbrella from her hands, which should protect the girl from the rain. Who was it? This can't be happening. Was this frightening man heading to Mr. Lin's bookstore? Apparently, this is so. Perhaps it's time for the man to return the book to Lin Jai's library. Meanwhile, this person is already on the doorstep of the store. He opens the door and the bell above the front door, which indicates that the man is already inside. Lin Jai sees a new visitor and immediately greets him. Lin Jai did not see the guest's face, so he did not immediately react to the sky. But when he turned around and examined the man, he realized that in front of him was already a familiar person. This man's name is Frank. Apparently, this is not the first time he has appeared in this bookstore. Lin Jai assumes that Frank has come to return the book he took earlier. Frank seems happy to see Lin Jai, and they immediately walk towards each other. Frank addresses Lin Jai more formally. He doesn't understand how Mr. Lin dares to pronounce his name. Lin Jai says that, of course, he dares. But he's already calling Frank by his last name. That is, Wilda. Frank is also unhappy that Lin Jai has a new visitor, because she took away a book that Frank Wilda himself often reads. Lin Jai says that he decided that it was Confession that would be useful right now. Frank also notices that he took this book last time. Then Lin Jai rather rudely says that, as he said earlier, it would be very difficult for an old man like Wilda to read the Confession. But Frank did not believe the owner of the bookstore. Frank says that after reading it, he realized that it was too difficult to understand, and there was a whole world in it, from birth to death. And based on his superficial knowledge, it will be difficult to imagine how great the person who managed to write such an amazing and wonderful book is. Lin Jai says that the author of this book is a dead giant. Then Frank says that since it was a giant, it's not surprising at all. At this time, Jai Jixu overhears a conversation between two men. Now, the girl understands what kind of stranger appeared before her earlier. Of course, this man is Frank Wilder, the Black Faceless. This is a dark magician of the destructive level. Unbelievably, according to the rules established by the Society of Truth in 1788, all supernatural beings are divided into 4 levels, which is also called the APRN qualification. That is, the qualification of abnormal, frightening, destructive, indescribable. And here is Black Faceless Frank Wilder, destructive, a dark magician. His bright distinguishing feature is a mask on his face, and also dark green, almost turquoise eyes. For this strong magician, there is a reward that the secret tower will give to the one who catches Frank Wilder. Now his exact location is unknown. One day Frank got into a fight with one of the best fighters of the secret tower. And as a result of this powerful battle, an area of almost 10,000 kilometers was destroyed, and it was in that battle that Frank Wilder moved to his destructive level. There are only less than 10 supernatural beings of the destructive level in Nazin, and there are less than 100 of them in all of Azir. Jai Jixu is in complete shock. Out of anger, she even destroys the wall next to the girl's hand. She doesn't understand at all how Lin Jai is chatting so sweetly and calmly with such a strong and terrifying supernatural being. She decides that she has nothing more to do here. She picks up an umbrella from the ground and decides to go home. Jai Jin feels like she has stumbled upon a very unusual person in the person of Lin Jai. Now the girl finally goes away from the bookstore. Further, it seems to Lin Jai that Mr. Wilder is in a very bad mood today. And if he needs his help, then let him not hesitate to ask for help. Lin Jai thinks that Frank Wilder is one of the few old visitors to his store who comes here just out of habit. Along the way, Lin Jai puts the book Frank brought to his place on one of the shelves. And of course, such a lonely old man just needs special attention and company. As far as Lin Jai knows, Frank Wilder has 2 children, and the old man has a bad relationship with both children. Lovers constantly leave him, and other magicians dislike Frank, in particular, because of his appearance, so this old man is always lonely. He really is an ordinary lonely old man. This situation reminds Lin Jai of how they met Frank as much as 2 years ago. The meeting of the men really happened 2 years ago. Back then, Lin Jai already had his precious bookstore. On one of these rainy days, a new guest came to Lin Jai. He came in quietly, a mask on his face hiding the appearance of a man. Lin Jai's instinct told him that it seemed that this visitor would be very interesting. Judging by his clothes, Frank Wilder was not deprived of money, but for some reason he deliberately hides his face. It seems that he is a loner. At first glance, Lin Jai seems to be a man of science. Also, apparently, he is a research scientist. Yes, this is a good chance to talk to the owner of the store with such a colorful person. If you are careful, you can get yourself such a mature enough client. A man with a mask on his face is interested in who is the owner of this bookstore. He also asks if it is possible to return old books that have been read for a long time. Frank Wilder has several old books that may well carry collector's value. Lin Jai says with a smile on his face that yes, the store has such a function. Books, of course, can be handed over, but you need to wait a little. Lin Jai offers Wilder a drink. He only asks for ordinary black tea and nothing more. Lin Jai offers tea to get a little closer to an interesting guest. Frank thanks for the tea, but the man's rather old face is very scary, and therefore he does not want to cause the store owner unnecessary trouble. Lin Jai says he doesn't see this as a problem at all. Frank Wilder is still primarily a guest of the store. How can Mr. Lin be afraid of him? Moreover, only very stupid people look only at the appearance of a person and do not even try to look into the human soul. Frank is pleased with these words of the store owner. He says Lin Jai is pretty smart. Then it's better to be polite on his part and remove the mask from his face, and then thank Lin Jai for this tea. The owner of the store says that Frank Wilder's face is more strange than scary. Frank takes the tea and starts tasting it. Then it seems to Lin Jai that Frank's mask hides old battle scars. But then the hero tries to forget about it and drive these thoughts away. He definitely shouldn't pry into his guest's personal life. But judging by the books that Frank Wilder brought, he studies many languages and is a highly qualified linguist. Then it's worth trying to start a conversation with a guest from here. Frank says this tea is really good. He thanks Lin Jai for him. He says it's not worth the thanks. Mr. Lin also says that the books his guest brought are very interesting. They contain studies of very rare, and even already dead languages. There is magic between the words and lines of the book. It's really amazing. Frank Wilder is in complete shock. I am shocked at how the shop owner could feel the magical power of these manuscripts at all. How is this possible? After all, Frank had erased all traces before that. And yet, even a supernatural being of the destructive level would not be able to sense anything at all. And all the time Lin Jai is so calm and polite. But what kind of person is this? He is clearly very unusual. Mr. Lin is so carefree, but it's possible that he doesn't feel the aura, but he's definitely an unusual person. Then Frank Wilder says he does a little language research, and if Mr. Lin has any research in this area, but he could give it to him to read, it would be quite an interesting experience. Lin Jai says that he is not an expert in linguistics at all, but in turn he is engaged in research in related fields of science. It seems that Lin Jai has a couple of suitable books. It seems to the hero that, of course, professional scientists get used to physical loneliness, but even they can't stand the loneliness of the soul. It may be a good idea to point out a new direction in this matter. Therefore, Lin Jai wanted to recommend a book to Frank Wilder. The trick is that this book uses one of the most complex dialects in existence, which are referred to as the language of the devil. And if Frank is not a real linguist, then he will never understand the meaning of the text written in the book. From this book, Frank Wilder slips a mug of tea out of his hands. Frank is very excited about this book. He is very excited about it. So there is a devil's tongue in this book. Interesting. Lin Jai is glad that he coped with his task and was able to please his new client. Frank says that this is a very, very rare book. He is very interested in where it came from the owner of this bookstore. Lin Jai, much to my regret, cannot tell the whole truth. They are not in China now. Therefore, the hero can only say one thing. This language is one of the glorious, magnificent, and ancient civilization. It was widespread in her. Unfortunately, Lin Jai is unable to return there for certain reasons. Frank is interested in what the bookstore owner said. What kind of ancient civilization is this? Moreover, the hero uses such a nostalgic tone. Because of this, Mr. Lin is somehow really connected with this civilization and with this book. Was she really that intimidating? Now Frank Wilder is even more interested in what kind of Lin Jai is such a creepy creature. Then Mr. Lin says that he still does not know the name of the man in the mask. I would like to find out as soon as possible. The stranger says his name is Frank Wilder and his position is not really worth mentioning. In response, he also asks the name of the owner of this bookstore. The hero says that his name is Lin Jai and he is the owner of this bookstore. And Frank Wilder shouldn't be so formal and polite. Next, Wilder builds a very cunning face and, by the way, says that he recently encountered some difficulties in his research. But it was thanks to the devil's tongue that Lin Jai lent him that he was able to find a new direction. And now, in order to complete the research, Frank needs additional literature about similar languages. Lin Jai likes the fact that Wilder really calls the book The Language of the Devil, although this is just one of the funny titles. This really makes Mr. Lin laugh a little. But then he gets serious again, because he has a job looking for a new book for Frank Wilder. So the two mysterious men met. After that, Frank often comes to this bookstore. 40 years ago, one winter day, another young Frank Wilder came to the forest and now stands on a rock, right in front of a huge magician and the king, which also inspires with its size. So far, Frank is looking forward to the upcoming fight with the mysterious magician. Then the magician utters a phrase in which the magician orders Frank to die. Is this really the power that magicians use? Magicians manipulate the language and writing of power. It happened in the world that light magicians write spells, but dark ones take and pronounce these spells. The huge magician says that after becoming a dark magician, while Frank Wilder will try to find the voice of his soul. Further, realizing his own fear, Frank will definitely find the path leading to such a level of a magician. Frank is a bit lost in his past, but Lin Jai's voice brings him back to reality. Lin Jai asks if Frank wants to borrow a book of the same genre this time. Or is he interested in something else now? Frank Wilder replies that yes, he needs a book in the genre that he usually takes here. That book was too complicated, and besides, it seems that there is a dialect of another language in the book, which is deeply connected with the cultural customs of people. Frank wants to better understand the hidden meaning of what is written there. Lin Jai understood his client's request. He needs a second to think about it a little. At this moment Frank waits patiently, slowly sipping tea. He thinks that Mr. Lin is as unselfish and generous with him as ever. It turns out that 2 years ago he had a difficult battle with an unpleasant man for him, Joseph. As a result of this battle, Frank Wilder was seriously injured. And so, when Frank lost his way, he came to Lin Jai and he instructed Frank on the right path. Also, Mr. Lin is able to pick up just the rarest books and completely hide his aura from Frank. And he is a magician of the destructive level. It's unthinkable. Meanwhile, Lin Jai assumes that this man sitting in front of him must be a hermit scholar whose strength goes far beyond the divine level. And now, 2 years later, Frank Wilder finally managed to start researching forbidden spells based on the remaining knowledge from that very book. And Lin Jai did all this thanks to this omniscient and well-read scientist. This time Frank Wilder is simply obliged to express his gratitude properly. Lin Jai reviews the books on the shelves, and then his hand stops at a book called Rituals and Magic, authored by Lin Jai himself. Lin Jai apologizes for keeping his client waiting. Mr. Lin thinks that perhaps he is a little arrogant, but he suddenly thought that this book is quite suitable for Frank Wilder. He's even a little embarrassed by what he said. Next, Lin Jai hands the book to Frank. He does not yet understand that Mr. Lin has such a reaction. Further, the hero says that to be honest, he is actually quite confident about this study. He is still confused. Frank carefully examines this book. Suddenly he notices that the authorship belongs to Lin Jai himself. Wilder is as surprised as possible. Are these rituals and magic really written by Lin Jai? The hero says that this is his rather insignificant work. He is even ashamed of it. Frank Wilder could have expected absolutely anything, but not this. Where did Mr. Lin get such knowledge about the world and its components? The cult of the truth of knowledge, then the cult of the moon, and finally the cult of the high fog wall. These are the 3 main beliefs that Frank knows. But such a faith as the corpse eaters, Wilder had never heard of such a thing. Also, rituals and magic has such an evil aura. The writer of this book is clearly not a kind person. Is Lin Jai really going to create his own faith? Then Frank Wilder asks Lin Jai if rituals are his area of research. Mr. Lin says that it is, but this is just part of his research. These studies that completely changed the fate of the hero. He wanted to continue with a more detailed account of this, but decides that it's better not to do it, at least not today. He immediately tells Frank to forget about his words. He shouldn't think about it. Frank Wilder is surprised by this formulation of Lin Jai. What is it? Did this really happen a long time ago? But what exactly? Is this the story that changed the fate of the hero? So that's how it is. Now Frank understands more well what is the matter here. According to Frank Wilder, Lin Jai is a scientist who researches forbidden topics and has such great power. This is a person who is doomed to be excluded from the main community, and it is because of this that Mr. Lin hides himself and his abilities from the rest of the world. Frank further notes that rituals and magic looks like this book is bound by hand. Why is this so? Lin Jai says that it is because of some unfortunate circumstances. He had no time to publish the book, so he had to save only the version that was made by Lin Jai himself manually. Deep down, Lin Jai is very sorry that he did not have time to release the book. If only the hero hadn't been transported to this world, but then he would have definitely managed to do it. After all, it was thanks to this book that Lin Jai received the degree of associate professor. Lin Jai even clenches his hand into a fist. Frank also notices this. But then Mr. Lin says that since he and Frank have common interests, he will gladly give the man this book. But of course, if Frank Wilder does not trust him for some reason, but Lin Jai can simply recommend some other book. Frank is very surprised by this action. Does Lin Jai really want to take and lend him this priceless original, even though rituals and magic is an experimental work? And besides, this book was never published. Frank Wilder sincerely thanks Lin Jai for being so generous with him, and it is also a great honor for Frank that he had the opportunity to read Lin Jai's books. But Frank also doesn't understand what Lin Jai really wants from him. He says that this work is precious and there is only one copy, so there is no doubt that it is a very painstaking work. Frank Wilder is really worried about the fact that Lin Jai is ready to give such a very important thing into the hands of a nasty and suspicious old man. Frank Wilder decides that perhaps Mr. Lin wants to put some kind of experiment on him. Lin Jai thinks to himself about how kind Frank is. After all, at first he was interested in all this, but when he learned that this book was the only one of its kind, on the contrary, he was ashamed to borrow it. Apparently, he doubts something. But Lin Jai is seriously determined that he is ready to dispel any doubts of Frank. Lin Jai says there is no need to worry about anything. Mr. Lin sincerely believes that Frank is able to increase the value of the book Rituals and Magic, because the hero's research is valuable only when other people can notice it. And as for this book and its only copy, this book no longer has any meaning for Lin Jai. Since today's Lin Jai already owns a whole book collection, the rest is no longer important. He can make a copy of the book at any time. And all because the knowledge and thoughts in Lin Jai's head cannot be stolen. As you know, you can only steal fame and wealth. That fame and fortune are not completely unimportant for Mr. Lin. Lin Jai hopes that Frank understands him. Frank Wilder seemed to understand right away. Lin Jai is a little unhappy that Frank has been agreeing to the book for so long. It would be better for him to take it. Now is the last chance to take this value for yourself. After all, Frank Wilde is a lonely old man, and besides, a scientist, he definitely needs this very fame and this very wealth to compensate for the emptiness in his soul. But unfortunately, such thinking can turn into painful fanaticism, and this is very harmful to health, so you need to give Frank Wilde the opportunity to be closer to the crowd and feel the care and kindness of the people around him again. Lin Jai hopes that Frank understands him, so many hints have already been made. Frank departs a little from his shocked state and says that he understands the hero, and he is also very grateful for such advice. Indeed, fame and fortune are not important. Did Lin Jai want to give Frank a warning not to divulge anything about this to other people? The scarred man has not fully understood this moment yet. Lin Jai feels the growing question and answers that he does not mind at all if Frank Wilde decides to recommend this book to someone else from his friends and acquaintances. Now Frank has no more questions, he understands everything. Therefore, the man promises to do everything possible. It seems to Frank that this is the price that Mr. Lin requires him to pay for using this book. The man really hopes that he will be able to distribute the work of Lin Jai. It is necessary not only not to expose the identity of the owner, but also not to distribute its contents. It seems that only Frank Wilde is able to fully study this book and then verbally convey its essence. Frank also needs to be careful and careful again. Next, Frank thanks Lin Jai for his long-term guidance. He wants to thank the hero with something. He really hopes that this gift will not upset Mr. Lin. Frank gives an unusual gargoyle to Lin Jai's bookstore as a thank you. It looks quite interesting and frightening. Lin Jai is very surprised by this gift. Frank says that this is not a very valuable thing, and it certainly will never pay off the value of rituals and magic and Mr. Lin's help. But Frank asks to accept it as a sign of his gratitude. This gargoyle is the work of Frank Wilde since his studies. His teacher highly appreciated it. She has sufficient magical resistance and also strong skin, extremely sharp claws and fangs, automatically recognizes the intention to kill, and also in terms of combat power. This gargoyle is not a bit inferior to elite warriors. Lin Jai really liked this gargoyle. He thinks that Frank is very shy, since he said that this gargoyle is not so valuable. This work is so elegant, almost realistic. Even despite the cost, it is quite a valuable token of gratitude. It seems that a gargoyle can be used for many things, for example, to exorcise evil spirits, because the role of a gargoyle is close to a stone that can ward off evil, since this is a token of Frank's appreciation. But Lin Jai will gladly accept this mundane award. The hero says that this is an extremely exquisite work of art that suits his taste perfectly. He can't wait to see what kind of gift Frank Wilde will bring him next time. Frank is very happy that Mr. Lin liked his gift. This is just one gargoyle of a frightening level, but the value of a book by such a high-ranking person as Mr. Lin is enough to create tens of millions of gargoyles. Frank is a little upset. Of course, it's good that Lin is still so good-natured and merciful, so deliberately express praise for the gargoyle, just so as not to offend the man. Then it's time for Frank Wilde to leave. He promises that by the next time he will definitely prepare a gift that Lin Jai will definitely be pleased with. This gift must be valuable enough to reach the divine level for sure. Lin Jai happily says goodbye to Frank. He will be looking forward to a new gift. He will also be glad to meet a man again. Then Frank Wilde leaves, and Lin Jai continues to examine the gargoyle presented to him. It is quite possible that Frank will give him a gargoyle again, so that he has both a male and a female. It will be really elegant. He is also interested in whether there are males or females among gargoyles at all. Lin Jai is not aware of this issue. In general, the gargoyle is good. A lot of energy is released from it. Restraining the force is just fine. So, Lin Jai is almost done for today. Maintaining a clear creation is really easier to attract good luck. Suddenly, the hero notices that some strange black substance is dripping onto the table from somewhere above. Lin Jai is shocked by this. Then he realizes that he is already familiar with this black liquid. They haven't seen each other for a long time. Is it really him? Lin Jai is not happy to see this something in front of him. This is what is behind Lin Jai's transfer to another world. 3 years later, he appeared again. Lin Jai says that since he suddenly appeared here, then it's time for the hero to pay his price. Let the black substance directly say what the hero will need to do. After all, this unknown being helped Lin Jai achieve what he wanted. He is still friendly. He must belong to the class of good gods. Shouldn't the fee for getting what you want be sky high? Then, the substance takes the form of an inscription on the table, which says that DZU has already awakened and started his search. Lin Jai didn't expect this. Was it really because he had allowed Frank to recommend his book? The substance takes on a new form this time, this time in the word yes. Now the hero understands what he needs to do. We need to get other people to recommend and spread rituals and magic, whether it will be beneficial for the mysterious creature. The substance again says yes without changing its form. Lin Jai is visibly happy about this. He says that then there are no more questions. Then Mr. Lin will do everything in his power. After these words, the black mysterious substance disappears. She abruptly disappears from Lin Jai's field of vision. He will think about what just happened for a long time. In the city of Nazan, it is still pouring heavy rain. An unknown man in a raincoat looks around the city from the balcony of a tall building. The man says out loud that it's drizzling outside. He also reports that Frank Wilder, a black faceless suspect in the Hunters feud, was found on 23rd Street in Nazan. It turns out that this mysterious man has been following Frank all this time. Also, the man in the raincoat reports that Frank stayed in the bookstore down the street for about an hour, which is extremely suspicious. The stalker thinks that this Lin Jai bookstore may be a secret base for dark magicians. On the other side of the conversation machine is Jack, who is now in shock from what he has just heard. He says that this intelligence is very important. Jack says that he will definitely inform teacher Joseph as soon as Jack deals with this. He also says that the man should already return and tell in more detail about what he saw there. The man replies that he understood the order and is ready to execute it. Suddenly, the very target of the pursuit appears behind the pursuer's back, Frank Wilder. He abruptly appears behind this man's back and calls him a rat. He clearly doesn't have the guts, since he has already decided on this action. The pursuer is shocked. He did not expect that his surveillance would be discovered so quickly. But still, Frank is a very experienced magician with colossal magical power, so he easily found this person. He immediately turns back, saying Frank Wilder's name. But he moves too slowly. Frank is much faster, and he has already grabbed his pursuer by the face in the black mask. Frank tells the rat to die. At the same second, the poor man is struck by Frank's magic. He had no chance to fight back and save himself. He's dead now. Jack's voice comes from the phone of the pursuer. Jack is extremely concerned about what happened on the other end of the handset. Did something terrible really happen? But now this person will not be able to answer. Frank Wilder puts his foot on this machine, and it immediately breaks to pieces. Frank does not regret what he has just done, even if it was cruel, but having dared to look into this man's house, that is, into Lin Jai's bookstore, then let him not even think about regretting death. After the incident, Frank disappears into the night, and in the city of Nazan, the rain continues to fall without abating for a minute. The door to the intelligence office of the secret tower. Entrance to the office of the head of the department. A girl named Claude, worried, knocks on the door of the office. He also enters and says that she has a report on an abnormal case for the Lord Knight. The Lord Knight allows Claude to enter. A girl with glasses says goodbye to someone in the hallway and enters the office. The Lord Knight is wondering what happened to the egg of the magic mirror. Did something happen again? Here the head of the department does not hold back and decides to speak rather rudely about the hunters. He says that hunters are really a bunch of stupid people. Claude did not expect to hear this. Apparently he came at a time when the head of the department was in a bad mood. And the Lord Knight continues his speech. If it weren't for the hunters, he would now be quietly enjoying his pension and not straining like this. He knocks with an iron hand on the table. This is a really strong blow, and further says that sooner or later he will practice boxing on the tombstones of the mothers of hunters. There's a big crack in the table, and Claude is about to come to his senses. She adjusts her glasses and asks the teacher to pay attention to the image she is about to show. The teacher tells Claude not to be afraid. He is also embarrassed by the fact that, it seems, Claude has not closed the door to the common corridor. Claude is a little awkward. A short silence is formed. The girl apologizes to the teacher and tells him that a new situation has formed this time. The Lord Knight clarifies, is this really a different situation? This is something new, finally. But what incident could be more important than the mess that the rabid dogs made? Claude agrees with this, but the spy who had previously tracked the hunters' movements was recently killed on 23rd Street. And according to the report that Claude brought, before he died, he found out the location of Frank Wilder. The teacher did not expect to hear something about a destructive magician. He immediately changes his face and asks again who exactly the pursuer saw. There is a joyful grin on the teacher's face. He has noticeably become excited. Claude repeats that their man was met by Frank Wilder, a black faceless magician. A magician of the destructive level, who disappeared 2 years ago after the Battle of the White Hills. At the moment, the secret tower posted a reward for Frank's capture. Claude is really scared by this. She didn't even think about the fact that Frank really survived. These 2 years, only the teacher was sure that Frank Wilder survived that battle. The Lord Knight says that of course it is. He calls Frank a pathetic bedbug and also compliments his speech with the fact that no one understands his habits better than him. And finally Wilda crawled out of the sewer. The Lord Knight could not have imagined that Frank could be in Nauseam. That is, right under the nose of the secret tower. It seems that his brain, wrinkled like a nut, finally squeezed out some water. Only one thing is unclear. What was Frank Wilda doing on this very 23rd Street? What attracted his attention there? Claude replies that the information received by the secret tower is quite limited, since they suspect that the spy was killed by Wilda himself. At the moment only the fact that he entered a very ordinary bookstore is investigated. And it is also known that he stayed there for more than an hour, apparently buying or taking books for himself. The Lord Knight is displeased. How can a dark magician who gains power by relying on language buy books? It's just impossible. Claude is shocked by such a violent reaction. The Lord Knight concludes that there is definitely something wrong with this bookstore. There is definitely some mystery in it. Have the people of the secret tower checked the whole background of this bookstore? Claude says that, of course, they have already checked all the available information and according to the data received. This bookstore is listed as an Ash Chamber of Commerce. It has been operating for 3 years. Also has a good reputation and a very small number of visitors. The only oddity of this bookstore is that the owner is a foreigner. Initially, there were suspicions that this could well be a secret base of dark magicians, but now they are not very sure about it. The Lord Knight asks, what exactly are they not sure about? Claude says they're not sure about the entire Ash Chamber of Commerce. The Ash Chamber of Commerce is the property of druid priests. They are light magicians who believe in nature. They are unlikely to be at one with some dark magician. Claude says that if they draw the wrong conclusions and rush, they may well damage the reputation of the Ash Chamber of Commerce. So, embittered druids can start protesting against the secret tower. The teacher is extremely dissatisfied with this state of affairs. This time, out of anger, he hits the wall in the office. He calls the druids a bunch of problematic vegetarians and continues to radiate negative energy. Claude thinks to himself that the word vegetarians is not correct, because druids are not vegetarians. Then the teacher turns sharply to Claude. He is sure that the girl has just thought of something indecent. The girl says it's not like that at all. She has no such thoughts. Then the Lord Knight approaches Claude with a quick step and looks at poor Claude with an angry, fiery look. But the girl does not answer anything. She is just very scared. Here the teacher asks Claude to answer his unexpected question. What is the knight's task? The girl stammers and replies that the knight's main task is to eliminate darkness and preserve peace. In this case, they cannot be likened in the dark and compromise with their accomplices. So, Frank Wilda stayed in this suspicious store for more than an hour. How could he just talk about ordinary things there? Read a book or drink tea? No way. Does his dear follower Claude really think that a dark magician can just read a book in a completely ordinary bookstore? Yes, if the girl really thinks so, then the Lord Knight will put on mithril-pointed shoes and order the girl for such ignorance of such simple things. Claude then reports that the Ash Chamber of Commerce is still funding 40% of the secret tower's intelligence squad. Then Claude's words make sense. The teacher no longer scolds Claude. There was a very awkward silence between them. Then the Lord Knight tells the girl to forget about it and not worry. The man with the iron hand is going to personally go to this mysterious 23rd Street. He needs to see with his own eyes what, after all, is going on with this bookstore. Claude obediently agrees with this teacher. Next, he goes out into the corridor, where the Lord Knight greets the other knights of the tower. The glorious Lord Knight is asked if he has eaten. Then other knights gradually greet him. All the people in the secret tower admire their teacher. They all say that the Lord Knight is working very hard. Meanwhile, the Lord Knight descends in a fast elevator from the lowest floor of the secret tower. At the same time, he studies Lin Jai's dossier. The Lord Knight himself wants to see if this gentleman is so pure. The Lord Knight is Abraham Joseph, one of the 10 glorious knights of the former secret tower. But then, in the elevator, the Lord Knight has hallucinations. They are chasing the man again. He grabs his face, his every time. At exactly this time, the curse of the magic sword of light appears in front of him. The hallucinations of Lord Knight Abraham Joseph continue. He tries to get out of what his creation has plunged a man into, but he can't stop his visions. Now it seems to him that he is drowning in an infinitely deep sea. Long tentacles pull him down to the very bottom of the sea. These tentacles have eyes and mouths. The man still can't resist it in any way. Here, some unknown elf grabs the Lord Knight and covers his mouth with his hand. Then Abraham Joseph plunges down alone. He is being pulled deeper and deeper, further and further. But then the hallucination stops abruptly. The man with the iron hand is very glad that this is finally over and he has returned to reality. Now he is on the street and leans on some building here. It's still raining in Nauzene on 23rd Street, and the weather doesn't promise to be better, at least cloudless. Lord Knight Abraham Joseph feels that he will not be able to go to that bookstore today. It's really some kind of curse. The Sword of Light is the madness of its first owner, and also his imminent demise enclosed a curse in the sword, driving subsequent owners crazy. But only a strong-minded knight with unshakable willpower will be able to subdue this Sword of Light and curb its curse. But Abraham Joseph did not expect that the reverse effect would come so quickly, and he would not have time to find a worthy successor, so he is forced to suffer from constant hallucinations. Right now, the great and invincible Knight of the Sacred Flame is no more than just an elderly cripple right now. The man is a little offended because of this. The first leader of the organization, White Wolf Harris, says that the sudden activity really surprises him. It seems that he underestimated that lady. She is not as useless as it might initially seem. She will even be able to get the role of a second leader, for example. It's worth looking at what her subordinates will be able to do when faced with this. Kaji, now the former leader of the organization White Wolf Jai Jixiu, is fighting with the next enemies. They call the girl a monster and attack her from behind. The girl quickly deals with them. Next, she asks her friend Max how things are going. He says it has been confirmed that Harris has the enchanted face now. He must have gone completely crazy, since he staged a massacre inside the Hunters organization right after he took possession of the egg. Jai Jixiu is very angry. He thinks that Harris has really gone crazy. Max also says that he is afraid that their people are not strong enough to fight Harris yet. He's already teamed up with his third leader, Kaji, and it's possible that this attack could end in death. Then Kate appears. She also has an opinion on this matter. She says that Harris has a powerful force. Among the White Wolves, he is closest to the frightening level. But Kaji has trained many hunters of the organization. She is also afraid that the two have specifically teamed up against Jai Jixiu. Kate is sorry that Milady is faced with the betrayal of a vile person who is looking for the person behind her. Jai Jixiu thanks Kate for such words. If Kate hadn't changed clothes with the girl then, and hadn't helped her to restrain her pursuers, she would never have come out of that siege. Now Jai Jixiu is standing in front of Kate, struggling with the obstacles of fate. And all thanks to Kate herself. Kate thinks Milady is really amazing. She doesn't know what happened to her, because when she returned, she was unexpectedly able to suppress the effects of tainted blood and even preserve her sanity, without even having to turn into a beast. This is literally beyond the understanding of hunters. And that white figure traveling through time and space, tracking and killing enemies. Just like. Then another person appears. He ends the phrase Kate himself, the girl wanted to say, just like God. The man also says that although Harris is very strong, the fact that he is just close to a frightening level makes him really intimidating. And once the beast transforms, both Harris and Kaji become extremely easy targets. This man is an employee of the organization White Wolf, Mouse Ryan. Everyone is annoyed by Ryan, but Jai Jixiu believes that it seems that every organization has such a crazy person as a mouse. The rune of loyalty is imprinted on the soul. At least you can trust this guy. Jai Jixiu thinks that Kate and Max will be able to resist the power of destroying the egg of the magic mirror thanks to the rune of the light magician, who is under the patronage of the family. Then Jai Jixiu says out loud that she has the tainted blood of the beast. This is the hunt for the ferocious beast of dreams. Has already become conscious. Now the hunters have no way back. You need to move only forward, straight to your goal. Next, Kate and Mouse Ryan are worried about the midsection. They ask her to be careful. The heroes are enthusiastically heading for the decisive battle. The heroes are at the entrance to the church. With a deft movement of the sword, Jai Jixiu destroys this entrance, and they move forward. The third head of the White Wolf organization, Kaji, was waiting for them in the church all this time. Kate doesn't understand why Kaji is here alone. Where is Harris? Then Jai Jixiu pushes Kate back. It seems to her that something is wrong here. She grabs Kaji and realizes that something was done to him earlier. Jai Jixiu wants to help Kaji to find out at least some information before it's too late. Then she asks Max for an injection before he turns into a beast. Jai Jixiu injects Kaji and asks him where Harris is. Did he leave after taking the magic mirror egg? Kaji says he's coming soon. By he there is the word God. Then the third chapter dies, without really having time to tell anything. My lady is extremely upset because everything is going completely wrong according to plan. Max says that they should go to Haywood and ask him, because he, as a magician who is obliged to the family, will not refuse to help them. Jai Jixiu says it's not necessary. She also asks Kate to continue searching for Harris with Max, but Ryan should go with Jai Jixiu. The man asks where they are going. Then Jai Jixu says that they need to go to 23rd Street. Lin Jai is sitting at a table in a bookstore. He is carelessly sipping tea and reading another book. It seems that another idle day is waiting for him. It has been 3 whole days since Lin Jai was visited by Frank Wilda and Miss Jai Jixu. And from that moment on, no one looked at Lin Jai. Mr. Lin continues to drink his tea. He also thinks that even though he barely has enough money for food right now, Lin Jai still owes a lot to that little black girl. That is, Miss Jixu. Lin Jai is simply obliged to show gratitude for the financing of his bookstore, an official business license, and a temporary residence permit that Jai Jixu presented to Mr. Lin and his beloved bookstore. He really hopes that the book Nonviolent Communication, which Lin Jai had previously recommended to the girl, can really help her. After all, such unpleasant moments at school are simply terrible. But in such weather, there must be no visitors again. Lin Jai needs to think about how he can recommend the book he wrote. Accidents like the one that happened to Miss Jai are quite rare, after all. Someone comes into the bookstore here. Lin Jai did not hope for customers at all today. He immediately greets the guest and does not believe his eyes. Jai Jixu herself came to him. She comes in and immediately closes the doors of the store with herself. The girl immediately apologizes for the concern provided to Mr. Lin. Lin Jai doesn't know at all how to react to this. His expression expresses a complete misunderstanding of the situation right now. He decides to somehow react to the girl so that she does not feel uncomfortable. He says he is very happy to see Miss Jai Jixu. But Lin Jai was just talking about his regular customers and now the girl came here right away. Is his book business finally gaining momentum? It is quite possible that this lady will bring Lin Jai good luck, profit, and prosperity. And it is for this that it is worth investing in your studies. Lin Jai continues the conversation with the girl. He says that he did not expect to meet the girl again just 3 days after their last meeting. He also adds that customers do not return to his boring bookstore after such a short time. The girl is the first in this. She really surprises. Jai Jixu thinks that, apparently, Mr. Lin is very disappointed with her. After all, it is obvious that since Jai Jixu had already received such good advice and guidance 3 days earlier, she definitely should have solved all the problems instantly. But now, halfway through, she again came to the bookstore for help. She is ashamed to admit that she did not cope with the problems herself. She needs one more additional help. That's when everything will work out. Jai Jixu continues to groundlessly blame herself. Is she really the most useless of Mr. Lin Jai's visitors? The girl really does not like her situation. She is really upset. Then Jai Jixu looks up and notices a gargoyle on Lin Jai's word. Isn't this the same gargoyle that magicians use? Even without a magical aura, she is very intimidating to the girl. Mr. Lin must have discovered her while hiding, just like an ordinary person. But would that calm Jai Jixu down? Unfortunately for her, she is very weak, like a defenseless child. Will Mr. Lin, as always, treat the girl with tolerance and even encouragement? Immediately after these thoughts, Jai Jixu berates himself for them. What kind of brazen thoughts are in her head? The girl apologizes for taking and upsetting Lin Jai. Then Mouse Ryan abruptly enters the store. He asks if this is really the place Jai Jixu was going to take him to. But this is an ordinary bookstore, what's the point? Or to this unusual store, then it changes the case. Here he sees Lin Jai, who is an ordinary person. Then Mouse Ryan does not understand anything at all. Lin Jai wonders what kind of person he is. The lady says that this is her subordinate. His loyalty is 100% absolute. Do not worry about it. Lin Jai is unhappy with this man. He feels sorry for the girl in his own way, because this poor child is actually surrounded by some scoundrels. Ryan's mouse apparently should have a loyalty mark. Then Lin Jai notices something strange. After all, if Jai Jixu had already taken revenge on that terrible person, as Mr. Lin advised earlier, then the girl would not be so confused and insecure now. Besides, how could she upset the hero, as she said earlier? Had Lin Jai's worst suspicions been confirmed? Then he asks Miss directly if she has failed in her revenge. Jai Jixu is not at all surprised that Mr. Lin already knows everything. She honestly admits that yes, she completely failed. This man ran away from her, and her people still don't know where. She has already sent someone to look for this man, but there are still no leads yet. Jai Jixu's fight with him lasted 2 days, and she made so much progress thanks to Lin Jai's leadership that Harris was already steadily retreating. But yesterday, after 5 hours of fierce fighting, despite the great expense, Miss Jai was able to destroy his headquarters. But by that time Jai Jixu realized that Harris already knew that her opponent was not himself. So after abandoning his ally, he ran away. And now it seems to the girl that she underestimated the enemy, and the fact that everything was going smoothly was just an unusual warning. Lin Jai is very surprised by this story. Jai Jixu apologizes to Mr. Lin because the girl got carried away so quickly. Lin Jai says that she shouldn't apologize, it's not a girl's mistake. Then the hero sips his tea. He doesn't fully understand what happened. And really, what's wrong? How did this lovely lady turn human relations into a war? Although, to be fair, everyone says that love is like a battlefield. Only in this case, love is the battlefield. Ling Jai keeps thinking about it. It is possible that this miss is used to using some business terms, which is why her descriptions have become so suspicious and strange. It will be easier to explain it this way. Apparently, what Jai Lin meant was that she had been communicating with that bad man for 3 days. But in the end the lady realized that this cunning man had already found a good way to escape from the girl. After all, he had prepared in advance. That is, that he left a friend as bait and disappeared with the money stolen from Jai Jiyusu. So that's it. Lin Jai says he understood everything. Then the girl is very interested in what Mr. Lin thinks about all this. That's where Mouse Ryan got completely confused. Who is this person for Miss? What's going on here anyway? Earlier, it turned out that the mouse reports information to the other side. He called his customer and told him what he had found out. He found out that the Black Faceless is now in the city. The person on the other side of the connection is surprised that Ryan found out about such top-secret information. Ryan asks if he really doubts the reliability of his information. The voice on the phone says, of course not. As expected from Mr. Ryan, he easily did what they could not. It's so exciting that the blood runs cold. Ryan says there's no need to flatter him. His next target will be one girl. Ryan should take the loyalty mark as insurance, but the person does not know if it will be easy to reduce it later. However, the power that this girl possesses is quite interesting. Then Kate appears, which prevents this conversation from continuing. She finally found the place where the mouse was hiding. She says Jai Jixu is looking for him everywhere, it's time to go. Now Ryan is my lady's servant, not a wild mouse running around on the floor. He could definitely use some manners. Ryan immediately apologizes for his mistake. He will come right away. He's sorry he kept Miss waiting. Ryan has the ability to freely control the ability to transform. And if he manages to get hold of this dangerous information, they will be able to destroy all the organizations of hunters. And after receiving them, even a sewer mouse can become the king of beasts. Right now, Ryan doesn't need to disappoint Miss Jai Jixu. But he still does not understand why Medeli treats an ordinary person so respectfully, as if she had encountered the strongest divine level. The lady asks Lin Jai to help her urgently. Mr. Lin says that she doesn't need to worry so much. Everything is easier than the girl thinks. After all, Jai Jixu's enemy is not that person right now, but something else. The girl's fear is just fear, so she needs to wait. Then there will definitely be good news. Here Ryan understands something. Because he is also engaged in deceiving people, then he is well familiar with cunning techniques. And is Mr. Lin using something like that? Bragging, empty words, ambiguity, all these are tricks used by scammers. Ryan knows all too well about it. Lin Jai is a complete liar. Here Mr. Lin apologizes and asks to wait a little. The hero needs to sort something out. It will take literally 5 minutes. Lin Jai thought that there would be no guests today, so he himself drank too much tea. He needed to pour more. Lin Jai leaves, and then Ryan starts asking the boss about all this. Jai Jixu calls Ryan an impudent person. She took the mouse with her, only because the information that the man owns can be useful, and not because she trusts him or appreciates him. Doesn't he know that he has to be polite? Ryan doesn't have any manners. Ryan screams that Lin Jai is a complete liar. Yes, the mouse does not know about manners, but he knows it. Knows too well. There is no one who knows better than him. Although Mr. Lin is good at lying. But Ryan can find at least 3 people who do it on the same level as him. Ryan just doesn't want to see Miss cheating again. Jai Jixu says she shouldn't have taken Ryan with her. But if the mouse was not useful, then the girl would certainly cut him down with a sword right now. Then Ryan calms down a little. He thinks this little girl is really easy to manipulate. You just need to distract her attention from Ryan with the help of blind faith in Jai. Ryan says he will prove everything to the girl as soon as Lin Jai returns. He hides a sharp blade in his sleeve, apparently prepared it for Lin Jai. Immediately, a gargoyle awakens, who felt a thirst for murder. Ryan was going to hurt Mr. Lin. Then the gargoyle grabs Ryan and almost swallows him. Jai Jixu doesn't even have time to do anything, and she herself is very scared of what just happened. Then Lin Jai comes down from the top floor. He apologizes for keeping him waiting. Then Mr. Lin notices that the lady's subordinate is nowhere to be found. Where is he? The girl does not know what to answer. She is still scared. Then she decides to lie to Lin Jai, saying that Ryan had an urgent matter, so he left.